Hello folks, good evening. Welcome to the December 5th, 2023 meeting of the Northfield Select Board. This meeting will be called to order. So first up, we have a 6 p.m. tax classification hearing with the Board of Assessors. So we'll have them call their meeting to order.
I move the Board of Assessors call their meeting to order.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so they have voted. They are officially in a meeting with the Northfield Select Board. Okay, with that being said, I have to read some official public hearing language because this is technically a tax hearing is considered a classification hearing, a public hearing. So we're all on the same page here. So I move the Select Board open the public classification hearing to discuss the allocation of the local property tax levy among the property classes for fiscal year 2024. I'll give that to Sarah. So we have a second on that. We'll take a roll call vote because it is a hearing. Alex, yes?
Bernie, yes.
Keith, yes.
Sarah, yes.
Okay, we are officially in a joint meeting for a classification hearing. The assessors, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take this time just to kind of briefly go over what exactly a tax classification hearing is and why we're here. It's kind of a good refresher, and Sarah, this is your first one, right?
Yes.
Okay. So to set the tax rate, a municipality must submit what's called a tax recapitation sheet. It's also known as the recap, so I'll refer to that several times. We have to submit this to the Bureau of Accounts in the local services of the Department of Revenue. The tax recap displays the municipality's entire budget plan for the fiscal year. So it summarizes all anticipated expenditures, which include appropriations voted by the legislative body since the previous year's tax rate was set, and other expenses that must be funded. So it's anticipated and actual sources of revenue other than property taxes, such as state aid, local non-tax revenues, and reserves are also identified. The difference between the expenditures and the revenue from these sources must be raised through property taxes, and that difference is what's called the tax levy. Assessors oversee the preparation of the recap, but timely completion of this annual tax rate process requires a great amount of teamwork and the cooperation from a number of municipal officers. Before the tax rate can be set, the municipality must, 1, determine the maximum amount it can levy under Proposition 2.5. 2, it must establish final values for all taxable real and personal property. And 3, decide its property tax policy. And each of these actions is documented in forms that must be submitted and approved by DOR. Assessors must value all taxable real and personal property and classify it into different classes. So you'll see residential, commercial, industrial, and personal property. Every 5 years, the assessors must have their proposed values reviewed and certified by DOR as meeting legal standards of full and fair cash value. Values for the 4 years in between certification must also meet legal standards. Our last reval was fiscal 22, so we're in an interim year. So although it's not as complex, it's still quite lengthy and a lot of data analysis is done. The municipality must hold a public hearing before it makes decisions on the tax rate options. Decisions are made by the select board. In some towns, it's town council or city council or mayor, but obviously we have a select board. The assessors provide information on the impact of the various alternatives. Municipalities must decide whether to reduce the share of the tax levy paid by the residential property owners and shift it to those in the commercial, industrial, and personal property taxpayers. If local officials decide to shift, we just have to we have to show what percentage we are shifting by. Historically, Northfield has had a single tax rate, and points to consider if choosing to do a split rate, it does specifically affect our small businesses and our chapter land parcels, and we have hundreds of acres and lots of property owners that fall into that. So think farmer, farmland, land preservation. And Northfield does not have a large commercial industrial base, and these effects would be felt locally for the small businesses. After this hearing, the town clerk signs what's called an LA-5, attesting that the proper notice of this hearing was given to taxpayers in accordance with the open meeting law and that the residential factor and percentages set forth were adopted. The LA-5 also records and acknowledges the hearing by the assessors, and it states the excess levy capacity. The excess levy capacity is the difference between the actual tax levy and the community's maximum allowable levy under Proposition 2.5. After everything's approved, the assessors submit everything online with DOR on a system called Gateway and wait for final approval, and then we can send out our bills. So what I had put in front of you, you will see is there's actually two forms, but the top one is Mass DOR puts it together. I put in some numbers and then it spits out and it's called a what if scenario. So in the highlighted section where it says estimated tax rates, it gives an estimated tax rate, and on the very top line, it would show if you kept it as a single tax rate. And then each line goes down, it shifts. So you will see that it will then, the residential, which is RES, will go down slightly, and then the commercial, industrial, personal property shifts up. So that's where you can determine what percentage you would want to shift if you so choose. The second piece of information doesn't necessarily pertain to the tax classification. It's more of a informational just on the values and how sales are affecting it. So I just did calendar year 22 sales, just so you can see what assessed value is versus what sale prices are actually going for. So that's just more of a fun fact sheet for later. And that concludes my portion of the presentation.
May I ask a question?
Yes, so yeah, we'll move to the discussion and public comment section of this.
I'm just curious, when you submit to DOR, how, after we conclude this, how long does that process normally take?
I've seen it happen that same day.
Oh, okay.
It, because this is a little bit considered a little bit later,
Yeah.
my advisor might be jumping at the bit and waiting for Northfield, or it could take, I've seen it also take up to a week, but
Yeah.
it's typically a pretty quick turnaround.
I think in the past we've done it in November.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it won't take long. Okay, got it. Thank you.
As long as bills go out by December 31st, we're good.
Correct.
So, like Beth said, we typically do a single tax rate. We don't split. We haven't done that. Have we ever done that?
Not as long as I've been here, and before that I couldn't find when the last time it was, if
In the
ever.
amount of $13.58 per thousand.
That's what it's estimated at.
Estimation.
It's not a approved number.
That was last year's approved number, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So you will be having the exact same tax rate as what this, if it's approved.
If it's approved, yeah.
Right, okay.
But you're not voting on that, you're just voting on the whether or not.
Classification.
Yep.
Yes,
Right.
correct. You guys vote on the tax rate.
So the tax rate gets set.
No.
Oh, get set, sorry.
Nope, that's it. It just,
Okay.
everything just mathematically.
Well, if there's nothing else, I'll move on here in the public hearing. Since there have been no written letters that we know of regarding this hearing, and there are no comments from the audience for or against having a single tax rate, the excess levy capacity is $1,333,463.05.
Extremely healthy,
That's very healthy.
very healthy.
So
And
that's nice.
To clarify, just to redefine in this moment, because I wrote it down, that's the difference between what the actual rate is and what the maximum possible is. Is that correct?
What you're gonna expend.
It's the maximum amount that could be versus what you're actually, so we could technically, it's the gap in between, the difference between the levy limit and the levy. So the levy limit, the maximum that we could tax at is what, 10,344,206, but our levy is 9,000,000 $10,743. So the number that Alex just read was the difference between the two.
Right.
Is that-
I'm just for citizens and also for my own understanding, just trying to understand. So that's just a conceptual difference, what we choose to spend or what is mathematically determined versus what we could possibly spend.
Do you have a better way of explaining? I don't.
The levy limit, the maximum levy, is the absolute maximum you could spend without an override under Proposition 2.5.
Got it.
If you, anything under that, your spending creates excess levy. So if you're spending 10 and your maximum levy capacity is 11, there's an extra $1 million that technically you could, if you want to look at that, we could have spent without needing an override.
But we didn't
We didn't fund
need.
it.
We didn't need to
spend
get
it.
to
So
that
we're not
point.
near our ceiling,
No.
which is nice. So like what you'll see typically in towns, say like a town that doesn't have a lot of money, I hate to throw Orange under the bus, but recently they had to, in the past year, do a Proposition 2.5 override for something major. I think it might have been related to something with the fire station or something in their emergency services. I don't want to be quoted exact on that, but they didn't have enough money through the money raised through property taxes.
Under their levy.
Under their levy, so they hit the magic Proposition 2.5 override, which has to be passed at town meeting, I
Correct.
believe,
Correct,
Um,
ballot and at town meeting.
to raise their capacity to get closer to it, and so they could fund their projects.
And a 2.5 override permanently raises your levy. A debt exclusion, which some people do for a specific project, temporarily raises your levy. So if you do debt exclusion, you want to spend more above your levy, but you want to do it on a specific project. I want to buy a truck, but I need $20,000 a year. I can do a debt exclusion for $20,000 a year over 5 years, and then when that is paid off, the levy goes back down that $20,000.
Yep.
But a 2.5 override is a permanent raise to your
Permanent,
levy.
yep.
So
Thanks
I
for
mean-
taking the time to explain. I appreciate it.
anything else?
And I've worked in towns where they've been as close as $7,000 from the levy.
That close, huh?
Oh yeah, that's not uncommon. This is a very healthy number. And I actually know the reason why if anyone wants to ever ask. I'm happy to. Oh,
All right.
So does anybody want
I
to?
move that the select board adopt a uniform tax rate, otherwise known as a single tax rate, for all classifications for the fiscal year 2024.
Second.
I have a motion from B and a second from Heath. We will now take a vote on this. Do we have to do a roll call vote, or is that just when we open and close? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a unanimous passing for a uniform tax rate, single tax rate for fiscal year 24. So, and then I'll do this one. I move to close this public hearing, and we'll roll call vote the closing of this.
Yes.
Alex, yes.
Bernie, yes. Pete, yes.
Sarah, yes?
And that concludes our tax classification, our classification hearing.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank you very much.
I make a motion to
I
adjourn.
make, oh yeah, I second that motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Me too.
There we go. There we go.
Alice is voting with her feet.
Yes, yes. All right, thank you very much.
You guys.
And we're moving right along here for a 6:15 appointment for Jessica Krupa /Sunrun /Mass Save request for temporary vendor, hawker, and peddler license. Jessica, please come forward.
I've never done one of these.
Oh.
So, I see here that you seek a request for a temporary vendor, hawker, and peddler license. Have a seat and tell us what this is about.
Okay. So I work for Sunlight Solar, and my son also works for a Mass Save contractor.
Okay.
So I have a lot of knowledge and education on different rebates for Mass Save and different programs that I can share with the residents, along with how to go solar and the benefits of going solar. I provide free consultations and I do designs based on their home. And then, I don't know, I educate them on any questions or concerns they have about the situation.
And potentially sell them solar as well.
If they would like to, yeah. So we've been in favor of the power purchase agreement, which is more of having solar as a service instead of National Grid or EverSource. So there's also that, which lowers their electric bill. It doesn't. So they get a lower rate. They get to save money. We also do R2 status, which a lot of companies do not. So R2 status on your utility bill is like low income discount people. A lot of times they're excluded from solar companies. That's something that we don't make commission or a lot on, but we're able to provide to residents as well.
Okay. So I see that a motorized mobile unit identified as a Ford F-150. It is a marked vehicle. And you're requesting for the hours of operation 10 to 3 on the weekends, plus Monday, and then Wednesday and Friday and Tuesday 1 to 5?
Yeah, it wouldn't be every day, but those would generally be the hours if I were to be here on that day.
Okay.
Chair, can you read the times hours, please?
10 to 3 on the weekends and on Monday. And then Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Thank you.
I read that right. Okay. And that you have a state peddler's license as well?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, pretty straightforward. We've approved several solar peddler licenses in the past
Are there
year.
dates that we're going to put?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. So, what dates are we requesting?
So I have a lot to finish up in Warwick this week. So I'm thinking maybe starting on Monday next week.
And that is Monday, the 11th.
Yeah, if that would be possible. And then going for 2 weeks.
Until the 25th or 24th.
Yeah, about I guess right after Christmas, maybe to the end of the year.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, except the permit is only for 7 days, so it has to be renewed.
Okay.
So I mean, when we renew things, we don't ask you to come in again because we've already established the relationship. So as long as everything's in good standing and you're abiding to the rules of the license, then we'll just reapprove it.
Right, we
Okay.
usually ask you to contact again and just say, yes, I'd like another week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to run this one from 12/11 to 12, when's our next meeting?
Well,
Do you want this week or next week?
She's in Warwick.
Oh, right, 11,
11.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 11th to
The 18th?
the 18th.
Okay, and then I just call and.
call
you-
and
yeah.
say, could you extend that?
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, great.
I had one more question if I might.
Yes.
So just to clarify, the power share that you're talking about, that's when you put solar panels on someone's roof and they buy power from you that's on their roof?
Yeah, at a lesser rate than their utility company. So
Okay.
the only way you can legally do it in the state of Massachusetts is the customer has to save money to go solar under the PPA.
Okay.
If you go to mass.gov and you click in the search bar, smart compliance, there are 4 solar companies that have not been in compliance to this rule. We are one that has been in compliance.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
That's good.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Motion to approve the hawker vendor peddler license for Jessica Krupa,
AKA Sunrum.
aka Sunrise.
Second.
But there are also other people there.
It would just be me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the dates, you have to put the dates.
And the dates were from
December 11th through December 18th.
From December 11th to December 18th.
And
With
the
a time.
times are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 10 to 3, and Tuesday, 1 to 5.
No.
Oh, I'm looking at the,
Wednesday, Friday,
sticker.
Tuesday, 1 to 5.
sorry.
I've got 10 to 3 weekends.
Okay.
Weekends
And
are
Monday.
Monday, Wednesday and Friday, Wednesday,
And
Friday,
Tuesday.
and Tuesday, 1 to 5.
Okay, we'll have that all factored into the motion. We
With,
can keep it
with her ability to call in for a renewal till the end of the year? I mean,
With the
With the
ability,
ability to call in for renewal at the end of.
weekly for till the end of the year.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay,
there we go.
Get that, Sandra.
discussion? She'll get it. She's good like that.
So is there going to be a paper permit for me to carry around to
There we
prove
will
to
be
the
issued
residents?
that.
Perfect.
Follow up with Sandra and she will take care of those details.
Great, okay.
Discussion, no more, good, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous passing, granted.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
I appreciate it. I promise I will be very polite.
Thanks for the
That's
good
right.
explanations.
Absolutely.
Fun in the sun, there we go, okay. I see no attendance currently. It
May
is
I, Chair, may I
slightly
ask a
early.
question that pertains to her?
Sure,
So we've seen a bunch of solar, I think that's the third person we've approved.
yes.
Is there, do we want to put a limitation of the number of people or the number of people out at one time? Or like, you know what I mean? Make anything official like that?
Yeah, I understand. I don't really have an opinion one way or another. This is America. If somebody wants to sell something, let them sell it. I do think when it comes to, like having a weed dispensary at every corner of this country, I think that's a little different because it's just, it's a little overboard. But I think when it just comes to like knocking on doors, I don't really see something.
If I could, I think procedurally, we would just vote, like if people, they would have to present at the same time if they were all going out at the same time. So we could actually limit when they make their application to the board,
Okay.
as opposed to having a policy. Yeah.
You understand what I mean though, right?
Yeah, I think so. What you're saying is you don't want to see
Overwhelm the citizens, basically.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but for that to happen, all three of them would have had to have applied for the same week, and then we could make the determination, like you get that week, you get that week, and you get that week.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool, thanks.
yeah, good question.
All right, great. Okay. Citizens' concerns? I don't see any.
I don't see any citizens
No citizens.
here, hopefully at home.
Okay. Review and approval of warrants. I'll take a motion for the 11/29/2023 payroll warrant.
So moved.
Second.
I didn't say the amount. Somebody want to say the amount?
Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun. 78,925 and 71 cents as of November 29th, 2023.
And a second from Heath. Discussion? Typical payroll warrant. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Somebody want to do the next one?
I'll make a motion to approve the November 29th, 2023 vendor warrant of $101,786.54. This includes the American Rescue Plan Water District Tech Aid and the ARPA Storefront Grant.
Second.
Bernie has it. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. You ready, Skip? Want to come up? Okay, come on up. So we'll start our 6:30 meeting for Floyd Donnell III. This is a fire chief appointment, as well as a discussion for fire chief succession and Ellen Whitney Trust / Estate Emergency Services Facility update. So the news is in. You have been approved.
Yes.
By the Commonwealth.
Yep.
Until August. Am I correct?
2024.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's good. So we'll.
It only took 6 months.
I know.
Yeah.
So let's just talk for a second about succession planning. So what I'm really hoping for in this gap from now until August, if we can come up with a plan for succession, so we don't have any headaches or hiccups in the process. So I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Well, basically, I've been working along with Michael Quinn, who's probably going to be proposed as my successor. As far as a lot of the duties and whatnot, he's been a captain on the department for a number of years. He is a good fire ground officer. He hasn't got a lot of experience on the administration side, the budget side, as well as the the inspections required and the permits and paperwork required by the state fire, commission. So, I've been working a lot with Michael, bringing him up to speed. So, I'm hoping that when I do step down, that probably he is would be my replacement. The department has shown that to be a favorable decision. Obviously, it'd be a recommendation from them to the board, to make the final appointment. So we've been working along with that. Obviously, Michael works with his dad at Kidders. He's local. He's been an officer on the department for, I believe, 14, 15 years. He started. He was a lieutenant. He's moved from lieutenant up to the captain's position, and then obviously you appointed him as the deputy chief when my term had expired, when you made me the administrative chief. So that's kind of where the department and where we're headed.
Okay.
I do have one question. If I go for an additional extension, this is just an if question. The town meeting vote was for 3 years. The legislature should knocked it down to 1 year. Would that require another town meeting vote, or is it meeting? So what?
You have to go through the same process for 1 year.
Same thing. Yeah,
1
for
year
1
right
year.
now is all
Right.
renewal.
Yeah. So there is also legislation pending to do away with a 65-year retirement requirement, changing it to 72. So I'm waiting to see. That was proposed by, I think it was Senator Blake.
Representative Blake.
Blake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
think
we're
a lot
waiting
of
to see what
towns are
that
having
is.
these similar
Well,
issues, I think.
And it
Yeah,
is a local option.
Yeah.
So it does
It would make it the
actually-
local option
You have to
at
go
that
to
point.
town meeting and actually accept
Yeah.
it at
Yeah.
town meeting before
Right.
you can even do it.
Well, I
So the
think-
earliest we would be able to do that, bring it before town meeting, assuming it passed.
Right, we don't know if it'll be law by May.
We don't know.
'Cause
We have no idea.
That bill, her proposal is
Yep.
different than the feedback we got from the two committees.
Mhm.
They were clear on, they didn't think extending,
Yeah, I haven't followed it. so-
right, so there's no guarantee on that.
Oh, no,
And
no.
the earliest that we could actually put that before the town, assuming it passed in this session, would be 2025, right?
Depends on if the law passes before May, but
I doubt it.
don't
I
know
would-
how fast, I don't know, yeah.
If my extension took 6 months, I would doubt that
How long
that
it takes,
legislation's
right,
gonna
to
pass.
law.
When it comes to,
But I just want to put it out there
Yeah.
that
Yes.
it is being considered.
Yeah,
so
we
when
know.
it comes to a succession plan,
Yeah.
we have to create a hiring process. Now, this is something that we had discussed before. Is there, did we want to do something where like the fire department recommends candidates or something like that, and then they come
I thought
before
they were
the
gonna
talk
get
about
on
a
a
committee.
committee,
was
yeah.
it a committee
We
that we
talked
were
about
going to do?
forming a committee that had several firefighters on it. I can't remember what the exact.
Yeah, I don't think we
composition
laid
was,
out the
but-
exact composition yet.
Well, we'll come up with something when it comes time. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we have an idea based on what you just said of where the department will head, but
Yep.
I think just for the sake of town history and for doing it in a correct and fair manner, that we should indulge in a process that we have done before with other department heads. So,
Well, I
The-
think it's worth noting that, what was it, 2 years ago or 3 years now, that we had to focus on the police chief. And now we're
Mhm.
focused on
Mhm.
EMS because of regionalization.
Mhm.
So I think this is really the time, especially given your succession and possible retirement, eventual retirement.
Eventually, yeah.
Could be 20 years from now, who knows?
Yeah.
But
No.
Yeah.
No.
But I think this is a good time for us to focus on getting all aspects of the department into the 21st century, meaning we talked about employment law before, we talked about
yeah.
mass general law.
Yep.
We've moved in the direction of regular department head updates and advising us. So I think I think we're in effect now putting the spotlight on, if the tripod is EMS, police, and fire, it's time for fire to be appropriately in the spotlight, not from a critical standpoint, but making sure all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed.
I mean, historically, what we've done in the past is we have proposed a slate of officers, and the select board has considered that,
Correct.
recommendation, and then have appointed it, accordingly. So
Okay.
anyway,
That's,
that slate that we proposed to the board is a unanimous vote of the membership. So, but anyway, and we talked about it,
Right.
forming a committee and whatnot. So
right.
yeah. But anyway, yes,
Anyway,
I have been voted. I've been approved for my extension.
Well, I think this is one of the very few times that we can ask how old you are.
70.
I think you know. Just don't forget, you
70.
need to actually make the vote to appoint him.
And
Right
I
now.
plan on doing that at the end of this agenda item.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say from a succession standpoint as well, this came from a conversation the other night over at the funeral home, is people, there's not just you, but other folks in the department who are hitting this age range. So I think when we talk about succession of
Yep.
leadership, given the long and lengthy and deep history of the fire department, I know we're focused on you, but really it's looking at the department as a whole.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have a good blend of age within the department. We have some senior members, and there are some senior members that are going to be retiring
Yeah,
very shortly.
right.
But we also have members that are in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s. So we have a wide varying range. So all of a sudden, you're not going to lose the fire department because of attrition.
No,
You
but
know.
a good chunk of your institutional leadership is in that 25% of folks that are in their 60s and above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe you're going to see a change in that this year.
So
this
that would be
January.
good for the committee to
Yeah.
consider as
Yeah.
well. Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor? So one of the things I really admired when you came in a little while ago was you talked about the culture of education, where you brought people up and you taught them and you educated. I think that going forward in this year, as you're teaching specifically Michael Quinn, but others, right?
Others as well.
It might be useful to make a list of the skills that you're teaching him on. And therefore, for him going forward, whether he ends up here or somewhere else, it's really beneficial for him to say, I've been trained in this, I've been trained in that. And also, it is part of the succession, because now you're passing on as the chief with tons of experience, the items that you think are the most important to teach somebody on. So,
Good
just
point.
a suggestion.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and let's just, that's all in the job description, so we just want to make sure we're following the job description and the hiring practices that would be discussed by the
I think
succession.
culture, though, often
Sure.
comes above. You know what I mean? They've developed a culture of really bringing people along that doesn't exist even with places that might have a similar job description. So as our current chief moves along, I would love to see that culture transmitted, and that's what I'm saying. Making
Are you
a
talking
specific
about transmitting the culture?
and the skill set, but
Yeah.
but the fact of transmitting the skill set is is culturally a careful attention to training is you can walk into a new job and people say, hey, here's your list of things to do, or you can walk into a new job and be trained and taught in the department. And so that's what I'm just saying, a list might help. I'm a list kind of a gal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I am too. I like that approach. I think the culture is very strong in the fire department, for sure. And I think as part of the committee, it would be good to, in addition to the list, because I'm definitely a list person as well, as you know, is talking a little bit about the culture, and then just, I think that's come out in prior discussions, especially
has.
with the bylaws.
Yeah, it has.
And that's going to create an opportunity, as well as maybe a little bit of friction, because some of that bylaw is actually belongs in an employee handbook, right? And so
Well,
we
it
want
has to meet the requirements of the personnel policy.
Correct,
Correct.
correct. Yeah, so I think to Sarah's point and knowing how strong the culture is some of what you guys have done in your bylaws that would be personnel policy, like I saw the social media, would be useful for anyone in town, in any department, right? So I think that all just needs to come out explicitly, so we're all up to speed.
And as of right now, December 19th, which is your next meeting, fire department policies and procedures will be on the list, so
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have that from Steve.
Gotcha.
Are you done with the lawyer?
No.
Will you be
Done-
done in the
done-
next week?
Well,
That's
I
like
would,
2
I would
weeks
like to say
away.
so. I mean, he's the lawyer for Mass Call Volunteer.
Right.
He's not just the lawyer for us, but
Right.
that's who we're utilizing because he's been involved with so many departments across the Commonwealth. So he has sent us some information. We had to send him back some more, not documents, but some more information from our conversations. And I'm waiting for, what I'd like to be able to do is take what he's taken our revised policies and procedures from
KP.
KP Law, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Actually, Timothy Zesson.
Timothy?
It's a
Okay.
different one, yeah.
And there's some things we'd like, obviously, we know we're employees, number one. We understand that there's town personnel policy that has to be, we come underneath the town, obviously the
Okay.
town personnel policy.
That's helpful.
But there's some other portions that they have taken exception to, which come back and they're not illegal, but they also don't help promote the culture, if you wanna call it that, of how the department has formed and operated over the years. We're not saying that this isn't time for change, but we just want that part of it discussed, and
Yeah.
probably, there may be some give and take on different items, I'm not sure. I'm waiting for the rest of it to come back from Joe Maruka, who is the attorney.
Are you envisioning, I think we talked about this.
Yeah.
There's the town employee policies and procedures,
Yeah.
but then there's certain things that would apply to a department
Mhm.
that could be departmental, am I correct?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
the police department has. That's
Yeah.
what's on this drive right here.
Oh,
They
right.
work on this is the police department
Yeah.
one. So I mean, every department has their own internal operating procedures that obviously, if they work as far as town administration goes, then obviously if we have no objections to it, then it's fine. It's just
Yeah.
there has to be that set established things that would be exclusive to a fire department, and then we would have the town governance portions. I know there's aspects of what you guys have done throughout the past in a different way, but that's what I think we're trying to iron out, is to ensure you guys have your autonomy with what you do, but then it's also more in line with what other departments are expected to do, and one department within the
Right.
town isn't getting some sort of preferential treatment because there's been no official oversight of getting it in line with how everybody else operates. So
Yep. I
When
think
do-
we're all
when
on
do
the
we-
same, I think we're all on the same page.
Okay.
yeah, when
Yeah, it
do we
just
think
needs to
that's
be
going
said
to
out
come
loud,
out?
yeah.
Like, when do we think that we're going to hear back from him? Because it seems like a lot of time we check in, we're waiting on this guy.
Yeah,
We kind of want to
yeah,
move this
yeah.
forward.
I have reached out to him. He was not around last week. He was away. But now that he's back, he's supposed to be forwarding that information back to me. I'm hoping by the end of the week. And then once he does, and I can go to work on it and move it forward.
Because
Yeah.
when are we meeting next? December
Well,
9th?
we need, if we can get it by the 14th to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 14th is our day to
Okay.
send their meeting materials, so
Okay.
But
we
doesn't
wanna- we
our,
want it.
doesn't the town lawyer need to look at
It
the,
would be nice if the town
Yeah,
lawyer reviewed
yeah,
it too,
okay.
so before the 14th would be great. If you got it at the end of this week, that'd be great. I'll forward it to Tim.
Okay.
I just don't want to get into like this lawyer battle.
No.
Well, nor do we.
We don't
Nor
need
do
that.
we. But there's some exceptions we take a look at as far as the formation
Sure.
and the operation of the department as it has done successfully for so many years, that I want to make sure that doesn't disappear.
Yeah. Okay, so we have we're all set with that. The Ellen Whitney Trust / Estate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
What
yeah,
we
what
discussed.
is that?
That is I can give you a brief
The
history.
never-ending story.
Huh?
The never-ending
Well, it's been a never.
Is it a long story?
It's depends how many details do you want. The bottom line is there was the fire department as well as a niece of the couple, as well as the fire department up in Vermont. Basically, Bernard and Dot Whitney lived in Northfield for most of their life. They lived down on Parker Avenue and did so for years and years and years. They are a very, very distant relative of mine, and I'm saying distant. Okay. But as a kid, we always used to ride our bikes down there, and we always had cookies and milk. So, but the bottom line is their son graduated from college. He went into the service. He married his bride. Her name was Ellen Whitney, and he was very involved. They moved and lived in Lincoln, Rhode Island for years and years and years. Never had any children. So when they went to form their will, and they had a standards type of house. Wasn't anything huge or extravagant by any means. They didn't live that type of a lifestyle, but he was very successful with finance. They left a third of their estate to their niece, Diane Alden, who lives up in the Berkshires. They, unbeknownst to anybody, and unbeknownst to our Northfield Fire Department, and unbeknownst to the Peru Fire Department, they left a third of the estate to the Peru Fire Department, where she was from, and a third of the estate to the Northfield Fire Department, because that's where he was from Northfield. And I'm not sure where the connection with the fire departments come in. I honestly don't know, other than that's how they drew their will up. So Ellen, her husband predeceased her, and Ellen passed away. I think now it's been 6 years or better. And so that was the first time that we found out that there was a will and that there was some gift amounts that were to be dispersed. So when that first disbursement came in, the treasurer at that time was Barb Brasser, and she set up a Ellen Whitney gift account, and that money was deposited into there. There's been a couple of disbursements over the years, and every time there's a disbursement, it's gone through Koppelman and Page and to me, and then like the last one that I was aware of was on November 21st of 2021. There was a disbursement. Hadn't been one for a while. There was a disbursement for $100,000. So I signed the release, sent it back to Jonathan Silverstein, who was handling that part of it. And I never followed up on it. And I didn't hear, and then all of a sudden I got a notice from probate court in Lincoln, Rhode Island, that there was going to be an accounting. So that kind of sparked. I said, Jesus, did we ever get the disbursement I signed the release on? So I asked Andrea, and then I obviously asked the our town treasurer and accountant Michelle and Aaron. And they don't recall, because when I signed that and sent it back to KP Law, Andrea had recommended that we let them know that this money might be coming, and so they could be expecting it. Well, they never remembered getting it. They researched back and found out that they never got it. It was never sent. So, without getting into a whole lot of detail, 2 months ago, I asked for a letter from Michelle and Aaron, basically saying that the disbursement that I had signed off and sent through our town council was never received. So I went down there with that documentation. The judge had opened up the hearing, and the executor of the estate and his attorney, when asked by the judge, you know, how much is left in the estate, what's been dispersed, what hasn't, they said, well, we didn't bring any of that with wow, that lit the judge up, let me tell you.
Oh, boy.
And I don't blame him, because this has been kind of going on. The estate, we originally thought was the house, was with the property,
Yeah.
and what bank accounts they had. But there was a little bit of an issue, because they were the founders of a church in Lincoln. And the church, they were officers of the church, and Ellen was receiving money from rental of a house that the church owned. And there wasn't anybody else left with the church. So the town of Lincoln wanted that finalized and made part of the estate, if need be, before any other disbursements went out. So the bottom line is I went down with the letter from Michelle and Aaron. I went down with documentation on the signed release that I had signed back in November 21, and also of the email where I had forwarded to our town council. So the hearing started, and the judge was very adamant. That was like 2 months ago. The judge was very adamant. He scheduled this hearing for the 29th. He wanted the final audit. So anyway, we opened it up, and they had done the final audit. The final audit showed 3 disbursements still pending for Northfield. One was $100,000 that I had signed off on, was still pending. And his statement, the attorney's statement was, well, the town never signed off on these, so we never issued the checks. So after he got done speaking, I raised my hand, and the judge recognized me, because I've gone down to most of the hearings. Because it's been such a slow process, and there's been excuses and excuses and excuses. So the bottom line is the judge recognized me, and he says, yes, Chief. He says, I appreciate you traveling down here. He says, you have a question? I says, well, the attorney said that we had never signed the release. I have a signed, notarized copy of the release with me, and I have verification that I sent this to our town council. So the judge goes, well, obviously the chief has done his due diligence, and he's talking to the executor. And so the attorney for the executor says, well, he's obviously their town council never followed through, and he basically, when he couldn't throw me under the bus, he tried to throw KP Law under the bus. So I had documentation, and I didn't realize that there were two other disbursements that I was never aware of. I was never notified, was never included. So the bottom line is there are 3 pending disbursements coming to the Northfield Fire Department. There's 2 pending disbursements going to the Peru, Vermont Fire Department. They were never notified or were aware of them either. So Diane Alden, who was the niece, had gotten each of her disbursements only because she had hired her own attorney, local attorney down there in Rhode Island, and she was working on her behalf. And the problem is, it's been so long, Diane Alden has also had some serious health issues and is not doing well. So her attorney is pushing to try to get this closed out before something catastrophic happens. So the bottom line is that the last hearing I went to, which was last week, I found out that there's 3 disbursements coming to the town of Northfield, that the judge has ordered that those be paid before the final accounting is done. He wants the final accounting done. He threw a date out of December 18th, but that accounting has to be advertised, has to be certified and advertised for legal purposes down there. So they weren't sure if they could get it done by the 18th. So there is gonna be another court date in December of when he wants that final accounting on his desk, ready for his okay. The $100,000 was part of that pending. There's another $75,000 that I knew nothing about, and there's a one that they did in April for $50,000.
Wow.
So that's all coming to the department. Now,
Great.
the gift fund that was
April
set.
of 2023?
Huh?
April of 2023?
Yes,
Wow.
yeah.
And those were originated by the estate, meaning they were just dispersing at a
They're
certain.
dispersing parts because Diane was having financial issues and some severe health issues, and she needed the funds. Now, as it appears as though the fire departments were never notified of these disbursements, and when the final accounting came, and I've been involved with this from the get-go. And I've also had discussions with Diane's attorney, and I've had discussions with Bruce Sawyer, who's the lawyer. He's the executor. But anyway, it bears watching, obviously. So the first disbursements that we got were put into this Ellen Whitney estate fund, gift fund. And it was started by Barb Brasso, like I mentioned, and 150,000 of that actually went to purchase the ladder truck we purchased 4 years ago. So,
So it's in
some
a
of that
fund? So you actually did get disbursements
we
at one
got
point?
we got 2 disbursements before
That were received?
that were received.
And then you have
Then we
3
had-
disbursements that were not
we had-
received?
Yeah,
Okay, wow.
and one I was aware of. The other 2 I had no knowledge of.
Yeah, I
Until
know.
it
That's
went-
I'm
till it
just
went
doing
down.
the math here, Skip,
Yeah,
in terms
yeah.
of.
Yeah.
So you've had 2 disbursements that
Yeah.
were received
Yeah.
and 3 disbursements that were not received.
Correct. One of which
Right.
I knew about, but the other 2 I never even knew about. So the bottom line is the judge ordered that the disbursements be paid.
Dispersed.
Disbursed as they are required to by law
Yeah.
before the final accounting comes before him in December.
And then there might
Now,
be additional disbursements after
They
that.
are probably, there is
Oh,
some
wow.
money left from the sale of the church. It's not a tremendous amount of money, but they also just found there was another CD that they became aware of that they still owed taxes on, so that's got to get taken care of. So the bottom line is it looks as though our overdue disbursements should be cut to the town for the fire department gift account this month. And like the judge said, through the holidays, there's not a lot that happens in their local probate court.
Yeah.
He says, and the wheels of justice turn slow. He says, so he is hoping to have the estate closed by the end of January or the first part of February.
Okay.
That's
And-
where we stand.
Whoa. Okay. So how do you, if they weren't notifying you of disbursements, how do you know that the cases, are you getting, obviously you're getting notified about the case? The hearing, I
The
mean.
last one that I was aware of, I was notified of the case through Jonathan Silverstein from KP Law.
Oh, okay.
And he had forwarded the release
So,
to Andrea and I and said they needed someone to sign it, so I signed it and got
Okay.
it notarized by Dan Campbell and sent it right back to him.
okay, and then you
And luckily, I
uncover,
brought that documentation with me, and
Yeah.
the judge was less than happy that, excuse me, but I sent it
hello,
back.
if you're an executor, you need to be executive.
Yeah, yeah.
So just a question, maybe more for
Yeah.
Andrea or Michelle is, so when departments receive donations
Mm-hmm.
or, then how does that work from an accounting standpoint? You just set up an account or,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like the enterprise fund is a whole different, not
It's a
whole
whole
different,
different-
but you guys are not an enterprise fund. So how does it work for the fire department?
Well, I don't know what kind of account the other money was in, whether
Yeah.
it was just put into the fire department gift account, or is there a separate Ellen Whitney
There's a
gift
separate
account?
Ellen Whitney.
And I
gift
don't know
account.
what's in that. I'll have to ask
Okay.
Michelle. I'm
Okay.
assuming she found it and she
Yeah,
knows
oh yeah,
what-
yeah,
she
she
knows
found
what the
it,
balance
she found
is.
it.
Oh, she did
Um,
find it. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
good.
yeah,
Okay, good.
and we drew off from that back was it 4 years ago when we bought?
Just
bought
when I
the ladder?
started, I think you bought
Yeah,
the ladder
yeah,
truck. It's
I
almost
brought the
5
ladder
now
truck.
because I've
Yeah.
been 5. Because I remember you buying it was one of the first
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
So I don't know because I don't think any money's been spent out of that account.
Yes, we have. We actually bought some thermal imagers. We bought, there's some other equipment the fire department did buy out of
So-
that fund.
Oh.
If they're doing it that way, then I'm assuming
Yeah,
they're using it as a gift account, which means
Yeah.
it doesn't need appropriation.
Mhm.
Um, But it is technically, it's accounted, it's audited by the town accountant.
Yep, yep.
It's town, it's
it's
town
ta-
funds, it's
Yeah,
just.
it's town fund is just specified for use for
And it's
enhancing
in
the
a
fire protection
gift
in the
account,
town of Northfield.
but, you know.
That's the way it's gifted. We do also have,
Well, you have a capital plan anyway, so are
Yeah.
you kind of looking at your capital plan and then saying, oh, I think I can afford it if I
or
do
if we use
this?
part of it just like we did with the ladder. But we also, we also have a gift account, so as, you know,
A
sometimes.
general gift account.
A general gift account that people, that we make donations, that anybody that makes the donations to the Northfield Fire Department goes in that gift account.
Okay,
And that gift account is used for other fire equipment. We bought some additional portable radios out of it and whatnot, so we do occasionally purchase equipment and spend out of that fire department gift account. But the Ellen Whitney account is a separate account
Gotcha.
specifically set up for that.
okay, so we can
Yeah.
consult with Michelle if
Oh,
we
yes.
want to see the
Yeah.
accounting
Yeah.
of it. Okay,
Yeah, we'll
Yep.
all right,
follow.
thank you.
So next we have emergency
Can I
services.
just ask one question before you
Yeah.
move, because this is financial? I just wanted to check with you, we did get an email from Amanda about possibly there being a grant to cover some of the earlier radio purchases that we used ARPA funding for.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
we know the status of that?
It's pending. They're not sure if they're going to. EMS and fire bought the
Right.
pages together,
Yeah,
and we used it off from funds. And
Right.
what had happened is the county, FERCog had basically put in for a funding to outfit the rest of the county with pagers. And yours truly asked the question as far as if those towns which have used town funds, or as we did ARPA funds,
ARPA
Right.
Yeah,
is
that's
there
like
any
almost
reimbursement for those
50,000,
towns that
right.
have already outfitted their first
Yeah.
responders with pagers? And so, moving along with it, they added that to the grant request, and it looks like that is going to be fulfilled. So, if that's the case, the money that the town of Northfield used with ARPA funds
Right.
to
Yeah.
outfit EMS and fire with paging, that could be reimbursed back to the town.
Yeah,
Through
that's
the-
almost
through the FERCog grant.
50,000.
Yeah, it's like $48,000.
48,867.
I've been told, don't add it to your account at this point,
not
but
spending any
it
money,
is, it is in the process.
Okay.
Okay, just wanted to see if you'd heard any updates.
Yes, no, other than it looks favorable
Good.
for those towns that already purchased prior.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Emergency Services Facility Committee update.
Yes.
Goodness, good. You like to load us up, huh? Okay.
Anyway, we had a meeting the other night, November 29th, and I'm just I had just gotten finished with the minutes, which will be going out either tonight or tomorrow to the committee members. Basically, they talked about several things. Obviously, the issue that I wanted to get resolved was the after action report, as far as what the select board was looking for, and figuring out where we were going to recommend the select board give focus for the committee. So the bottom line is I'm just going to read it right off the minutes. The after action report: several factors contributed to the failure of passing of the emergency services facility for police, fire, and EMS at the last special town meeting. Even though the majority voted in favor, it missed the 2/3 vote needed to fund it. Reasoning: cost is too high, poor communications, insufficient. These came from the committee members. Insufficient time for public education with the cost of the facility. Project was not fully supported by the town employees. There was pushback on the location, but it was actually minimal after working with the neighborhood. Individual and combined options for EMS, police, and fire were discussed at length, and we had a long discussion. Finally, there was a motion by Mark Fortier, seconded by Barry Bordner, which is one of the new committee members, to recommend the select board to allow the Emergency Services Building Committee to come up with either 3 individual or combined options for the 3 public safety departments. It was voted and passed unanimously the other night. So, do you want a formal after action filing, or that's basically what the committee had come up with, is to look at any and all options to move forward, not collectively as a public safety complex for all 3 in one location.
Not excluding that, just having.
Not
other
excluding
options.
that, but having the options to look at individual. So that's what was discussed. And that, you know, we talked about fire, we talked about police, we talked about EMS. Mark touched on the task force at the meeting. So there's a lot of possibilities, and we just want the ability to fend them all out.
Well, with an after-action review, aren't there normally, this is what we would do differently the next time?
What we're doing differently is not doing it all under one roof. We're not doing the
No, I
public
mean,
safety
all of the criticisms, there's, to make sure that we don't repeat whatever people thought we did.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily personally agree with all of the assessments, but if that's what the committee is coming up with, then it's not just going from 1 building to 3. It's going from if the committee felt communications were poor, then what is the committee going to do differently as a result?
We did talk
Right?
about, we did talk about some options.
That should be in the report
We
too.
talked about, well, one of the things, well, I can add that, but if you want an
Yeah.
actual after-action report, I can develop one for you.
I think the minutes are fine as long
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
the solutions that you think need to be in place are in place, and as long as, you know, my particular concern is if the departments themselves who were represented on the building committee did not support the prior solutions, plural, then with that representation, then why were we working for 2 years then? That would be my question.
Yeah.
And I would
Yeah.
want to dive down further into
Yeah.
that going forward.
and
Because
that's,
there's no reason to have people putting in this much time and energy with the kind of representation that they have to then have them go, well, I didn't want it anyway, but maybe I didn't speak up, or I spoke up and I didn't
Right.
think I was heard, which is what I heard anecdotally from a couple of people, 3 people removed from town employees, right? So that's, I'm not concerned so much about the report, because if it's all captured in
Yep.
the minutes, that's great.
Yep.
But I want something to be different. I know for a fact, I was not on the committee, but I spent 2 years working.
I've spent more than 2 years.
Right, exactly. So
I've
I
been
don't
a
want
lot
to
of time.
spend,
Yeah, no.
personally, I don't think anyone should have to spend
Right.
that amount of time to, when we already know what the answer is, right? And especially if it's coming from public safety employees,
Right.
if they're not supportive of it, we need to hear about it before we go through all
Yep.
of the, to Sarah's point about town meetings is, then we shouldn't be going to town meetings then if we don't, we're not all, we don't all have to agree on exactly how things are implemented, but we do
Right.
all have to be pulling in the same direction.
Correct.
Otherwise,
Yep.
it's a real
Yep.
big waste of time and money.
And I have addressed that within my department. But because I have been forcing my department to hold building committee meetings, and it's been very, and when you have a
Is this
Third-
something different that you're
Yes,
doing that
it
you
is.
did
Well,
not do
no,
before?
Yeah, the difference is I'm forcing it to happen, and I'm forcing
The
people
communication?
to people to be there.
Okay.
And if they are against it, then they have to, give us reasons why they are against it, okay? And understand that when the recommendation comes from the fire department, it's the majority of the people. If there's one or two that don't want anything, don't want a new facility, that's not representative of the majority of the department.
Correct. You can
So,
vote any way you want as an
You
individual.
know, I can't tell you, as a member of my fire department, how to vote, okay? That's not the way I operate.
Yeah.
You can have your own opinion, and you can have
Correct.
your own vote, but you have to understand that when this goes through and I'm forcing the issue, that it is the vote of the department of moving forward.
Yeah, because
That is a change.
I think one of the most frustrating parts of that entire last process and why I was so absolutely frustrated by it was the amount of people that voted no on it. If the fire department portion of those people who voted no voted yes, then it likely would have passed. There was a huge chunk of the people in the no section that were of the fire department. So it's confusing to me as to why they had several representatives on the committee, but yet nothing was brought forward to you guys to bring to us as a department's representative
Right.
as to why they didn't like it. And all of a sudden it was a surprise in, I think maybe the 6 or 7 days before the town meeting when I happened to bump into one, talk to them about it, and they were like, we don't like it. And then I started talking to more, and it was a broad thing with the whole department. And then when Alex and I met with you guys, it seemed like it was the whole room that really didn't care for it. It's like, where was this coming from?
Yeah.
And this would have made a massive difference in the way that the whole vote
Right.
went, is if we had their buy-in from the start and we had their support behind it, that may be the catalyst that would have passed that entire thing. So
That has
Yeah.
been addressed.
yeah,
Because I am not going through this whole process again, okay? If the majority don't 100% buy in to what's being proposed.
Yeah.
They need to be part of that.
we want them to want it.
Well,
We don't
yeah.
want to put forward something that they don't want as
you
well.
know,
They are the
they all
taxpayers,
want
too.
something. They disagree on exactly what that is. And if you have
That's the
if
key.
you have a pet peeve about a certain aspect of it, voice it.
Yeah.
That's the place to voice it.
Yeah.
Okay? We as a department will listen to it, evaluate it, give it our input, but the decision will be a department decision. It's not mine, okay? And it's not as an individual. So, and that has to be accepted broadly across the department.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I attended the meeting also, and one of the things that came out that I thought was relevant was that the limitation set by the select board was that all the three services would be in one building.
Yeah.
And so the motion by the committee was to alleviate that limitation without foregoing the possibility that they could
We're
still
still
all
doing
be in the
it. We're still
building.
doing it.
Actually,
Right.
I started this process
Yeah.
in 2019 when I was hired,
Mm-hmm.
and the committee hadn't met for a while. I think you were still dealing with it, and the select board never said that it had to be in one building. What the select board said is we need to move forward with the solution for all three at the same time. We didn't want to leave anyone behind. I don't ever remember a select board vote saying put all three in the same building.
No.
I don't even remember the discussion. I remember sitting at the meeting where
Mm-hmm.
I said, it's pretty clear to me that the tide is, we have to move forward with the understanding that three solutions, because you can't just have them all running independently for the
Right.
door. First one gets a
First
bite at
one,
the apple,
exactly.
everyone else is just
Exactly.
left off the table.
Yeah.
So that, I think, was actually the consensus of the select board, is we need to move forward looking at all three at the same time, instead of splitting into three different, whoever gets there first gets a building or gets a solution.
Well, that may have been a miscommunication because
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
outright stated
Right.
during that meeting by, I think, more than one person, that was their feeling, that select board had ordered or,
The
you
focus,
know,
the
told,
focus was
focused on
the public safety
those. So I'm not trying to, I'm
No,
just
no,
trying
no.
to
Yeah, but I mean, you've
illuminate.
been
No,
on the
that's
board the whole
helpful.
time I've been here, and I don't recall the select board
Don't
ever
remember
taking that vote or making that stipulation. But I
Don't
do
remember
remember
that.
them saying we have to move forward.
Well, we can
For
go
the
back
good
and
of
look at the
everyone.
minutes if need
I mean, I
be.
don't know that it matters anymore.
Right, no, but I
it
was
really
just-
does move it.
To,
Yeah, go.
to Sarah's point, that's a valuable piece of information, and it also speaks to the fact that if that was your understanding, why wouldn't you be bringing that forward and say, we don't all want to be in the same building, and we want you to go tell the select board, or we want you to go.
But that was just the committee. I don't know that it was
Right.
the department. You see what I'm saying?
The
What I'm
committee
saying
thought
is
that?
that
You mean the building committee thought that?
yes,
Yes.
during the meeting, it was explicitly
Mhm.
stated by more than one person. Yes.
I think that's the evolution it took. And I was there for the whole meeting, I was
That
only there for
wasn't
the
the
first hour.
initial thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I don't think there was ever marching orders to actually go for a full facility, and from the time that I got on that committee, I think where it evolved into was that 3 separate buildings were 3 separate heat plants, 3 separate everything when we could combine them, and I think it organically evolved into a single facility when the financial responsibility made sense to combine them all and save the square footage costs of
Economy of
repeating
scale.
the
It was
same thing
economy of
throughout several
scale.
different
Yeah.
things. So I don't ever remember us having sort of like a marching order from the select board for sure on that was what it was ordered from the select
Yeah.
board. I think it just made it in that direction after meeting after meeting after meeting and looking at these places and talking with the architects that eventually
Yeah.
it turned into that, and then that became the
Okay.
mission. But I don't think there was ever
Yeah.
like
Have
a,
you been-
a guideline saying
Have
that's
you
what
been the
we're doing.
rep on the committee since?
So yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
On this committee,
Yep.
yeah.
For 4 years?
Yeah.
And there's some really, though, like I said, I was
Yeah.
at the meeting, and I know some folks had to leave a little earlier, but there's some really exciting opportunities that would take a step around some of those economies of scale, all being in the same building. And they're doing, you know, we added some really qualified new member to
Yes.
some really experienced previous members, and everybody really is, and the Hastings, who actually aren't on the committee but have been really present and going and
Oh, yes.
visiting and stuff like that,
Yeah.
they were there. So I really see a good motion, and there wasn't, you know, there was a little bit of back and forth, but everybody's really kind of faced the same way, which is
Yeah.
help the town and get these things done.
And I'm
Right.
hoping,
And we'd like, if it wasn't clear before, we'd like the option to do individual.
See, that's why they're
Instead of
asking,
combined.
because it was believed that
It was my understanding that we were working towards a public safety complex. So we just want to make sure, this is our recommendation to the board, moving forward, that we look at all alternatives, possibly combining all 3, maybe only combining 2 and one
Yeah.
separate. Let's look at all those
Yeah.
options and
I
move
don't
it
think you
forward.
can narrow it down at this point because you don't know what the costs
Well,
are
that's why
gonna
we're
be.
just asking for it to be,
Yeah.
the committee to be allowed to look at options.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, if I was able to stay at that meeting longer, I think that my recommendation would be just to continue an investigative point. I don't think we
Right.
as a committee are able to say to the select board, so we can say back, this is what the committee feels like we're heading in this direction, and the select board can look at that and go, okay, yeah, that makes sense to us. Why don't you consider that your sort of marching orders? Because there's so much in flux with
Yep.
with the committee looking at the other building the other day, not knowing what EMS is going to do. I mean, if anything made sense, it seems like the fire department would be the sole focus right now, because it seems like that's the only one that may not have something drastically changing to it in the near future. And the police department is kind of set at the moment.
What do you mean not drastically changing for them?
EMS's operations can drastically change.
No,
to
I
be
mean
regionalized.
fire. I mean fire.
They're not going to be regionalizing with another town. We haven't had any of those discussions or anything, so I don't see fire expanding into other towns and drastically changing their operations. They need a new building. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yes, but I just want to point out, because I think this was discussed, the portion that I was sitting in on the building committee, is that regionalization is going to take time, and the vote for regionalization has to go before all of the towns
Well, it
at town
depends.
meetings. right?
The financing will, the structure may or may not, depending on whether it's a
Right.
municipal
We're
agreement.
still figuring that out. So
Right,
I just want to
'cause-
make sure that people aren't kind of lining up and going,
Yeah.
oh, EMS will be all set because all of the other towns will. We're still at the stages of figuring out the governance and actually what's possible under Mass general law, because EMS is separate from fire.
Right.
There's no EMS district legislation like there is fire district, and
Correct.
most fires have EMS associated with them. So anyway, but I just want to make sure that it's clear that's not going to be. Don't be putting all the eggs in one basket at this point.
How
As
was
far
I
as
doing that?
okay, no, not you, but I mean in general for
What I'm saying is
for
that
what the discussion that I heard.
I don't think we should be looking at the purchase of any buildings in relation to EMS because we don't know what's going on with them yet. That's my own personal opinion, is that there's so much in flux with them to make a large multi-million-dollar investment and not knowing what their future is and certainty doesn't make much sense to me. What does make sense is that the fire department's building is the most critical at this point, and I think that we can safely focus on trying to push that one forward the quickest and put the most energy into it, so that way we can get them somewhere before something critical happens to their building. I think that was the urgency behind the entire committee for a huge period of time.
Right.
I think that should be the focus.
The
That's my own
challenge-
personal opinion.
So I agree that fire is critical, but they're also the longest out because it's the biggest building solution, right? EMS, regardless of what happens regionalization wise, can move forward on. They need to expand. We have an ambulance in Irving because we don't have enough room for the ambulances, right? So I want to make sure we don't put the necessarily, if there is a solution for EMS, is not assume that the solution can't be discussed now versus like 2 years from now, because the need will still be there regardless of how many towns buy in or not.
Right, but what I'm saying is that I think fire should be the number one priority at this point, and then as EMS starts to iron out and we see what's happening with them, then we can figure it out. Because if there's multiple
No, you're going to
towns,
have to stagger them. I think you're going to have to work them on parallel paths.
right? But since EMS is so uncertain right now, that
It's not
there's going to be
uncertain.
other stakeholders
I don't
within.
think
It's not
uncertain.
But, and I
uncertain.
wanted to clarify at the
Just in
meeting,
the committee we're sitting on,
the-
it's moving forward. It's not uncertain.
at the meeting, the chief of EMS was very clear when he said, we are already regionalized. We're already serving the region.
Right.
Right.
So I think in that sense, it's already regionalized, whether we're working on making sure that communities are contributing a more appropriate amount so that we're spreading the expense past to Northfield a little bit more. But I think it would be a mistake to foreclose the option of really excellent solutions if one were to land in our lap.
Right, and I guess
Yes.
I can't get a full sentence out without getting interrupted, so I'm getting a little
Sorry, I'm
frustrated.
sorry.
So what I'd
Sorry,
like
go
to
ahead.
do is state that the fire department needs to have a concerted effort right now. They are established, they're here, their building needs to be done. I'm not saying ignore EMS for any period of time.
Okay.
I'm just saying that if a building got plopped in our lap, because I know everybody went and looked at one last weekend, we are in no position to purchase one for them because we don't know what their future and who the stakeholders are and how much they should be and could be presenting for the purchase of any sort of building from that point forward. So I think we need to figure out what's going to happen with them administratively, because I think if we are to purchase another building for EMS, the other towns should have some sort of stakeholder in it, especially if there's one that's located outside of Northfield. Like, there's a lot of uncertainty with that. I think that needs to be ironed out more, and there's more work to be done in that area. While that's being done, I think we should be focusing on what's going on with the fire department and moving that forward. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, maybe we can consider moving on because we've got a lot of things and I don't want to be here until 10 at night. So I know this is an important discussion. We still have to appoint Skip. We have to do all sorts of other licenses. So I'm going to pull a chair power card and wrap it up.
Thank you.
Very much for your comments, Heath, and everybody else that has something to offer this. It will be an ongoing discussion, and I look forward to seeing what else we have to bring to it. Let's move on with appointing the chief. So,
Okay.
anybody like to entertain a motion? Please include the date of when his term will be up. Thank you.
What is the date?
August 13th.
August 13th,
August 13th.
2024.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Floyd Donnell III as the fire chief, term expiring 8/13/24.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on this? You sure this is what you want?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Aren't you gonna read them are you going to take on the responsibility?
Oh yeah, the duties and responsibilities. This is All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're back at it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Skip.
You're
And then
good?
we'll take the next steps on succession
Yes.
Okay.
we're gonna discuss how at some point.
We'll circle back
Soon.
to it.
Okay, all right.
We have to
Okay.
formally meet the committee, I think, still.
Have a good
We've only
evening.
talked about what it.
You as well. Outstanding. Okay, review and approval of minutes. Executive session for 10/3/2023.
Ooh, wait a minute, I gotta get my paperwork.
We don't have those ones. Those are from something we were previous given. So
No, we
And that
have-
one was the one that I think I was absent for, so I'm gonna abstain from
okay,
it.
abstain.
Yep,
Motion to approve
Yeah.
the October 3rd executive session
You
one.
got it.
Minutes.
second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Abstain.
And with an
Oh,
abstain
that's
from
right.
Sarah. So four
Just 'cause I
ayes and
wasn't
one
here.
abstain.
Yeah.
So this is one that was tabled. If I'm reading it right, the executive session for 10/17.
No, I'm going to table it.
Oh, we are going to table
Going
it.
to table
Okay.
it. We have additional
The
suggestions for minutes.
different
Oh, okay.
language that was
Yep.
in it were suggested. Okay. So we're going to move on from that one. And then we have 11/21, which was
Wasn't it
11/7.
November 7th?
There was, I forgot to put it in because
Oh, okay.
11/7 we're not doing?
No, it's not on the agenda.
Okay, next time, okay.
Oh, you're right.
sorry, COVID.
She was out for COVID.
COVID
last week.
interrupted.
Oh,
no,
COVID
we
brain.
left it.
Bummer.
sorry.
Well, we've got a few teed up. Okay, so next time is November 7th. Where is?
Oh, the 11/21 is just the normal one.
Yes.
Oh, right, thank you. And the one in green for the October 17th is the,
Tabled executive
Table.
correct, okay. But the corrections are in,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, we will look at those and make a
Yep.
decision.
Yep.
So, oh, I'm sorry. Comments on November 21 minutes, if I may?
As long
Or
as we
are we
don't
doing
talk
that
about
yet?
them. Yeah, what's up?
Nope, these are open minutes. These are November 21. There is no plan to publicize the data. This is on the first page, 1 of 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the open minutes. You're
Yeah.
good. Yep.
So I think that she said I don't know. I don't feel like that's a proper characterization of what was said. I think that.
Which one? I'm sorry,
on,
which bullet?
Page 1 of 7.
Yeah, I see 1 of 7. Which
Under
bullet?
Mallory Sullivan, the last bullet point, there is no plan to publicize the data. We talked about actually, putting together graphs and stuff like that. So I don't know that I just think that may not be a exact characterization of it. I wouldn't want
Was
to
it at that time?
foreclose it. Yeah,
I mean, there was no plan in place at that time
yeah.
yet.
That was Mallory's response.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she didn't have a plan
She
yet.
didn't have a plan.
I think it's yet,
Okay.
yeah.
Could we add the word yet? Do you guys mind?
Yeah, no,
I wasn't there, so I'll have to abstain. I
yeah.
apologize for missing it. I signed up for some overtime at my work. I was a dope. I miscalculated our select board meeting, so I
Well, we switched the schedule, so.
couldn't get out of it. So I'm sorry I missed it.
We've forged on.
Yeah.
So
I would like to say it went really fast, but actually we were here really long.
yeah, that was a long one
Yeah.
too.
No. yeah.
There is no plan to publicize the data as of yet.
Yes, I would
Okay,
like that.
okay.
If we might.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Okay.
So I'll make a motion to accept the November 21, 2023 minutes as amended.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain. You were not here, I was not here. So 2 abstains and 3 ayes. We are a 5-member board, so guess what? It passes.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Great. Interim select board meetings. Don't think we had anything, did we? No, I don't think so. Meetings and events attended by select board members. I had. Did I have anything? I guess I sort of had a meeting, but this was like back in November of 14. Well, I'll explain. So,
Okay.
and I would have said this last meeting,
just
but
sounds funny.
I wasn't here. So, Haley and I, we dined at the Deerfield Inn, lovely restaurant, and then who do we sit next to? In coincidence, was Mark Fortier and his wife. So we just were like, oh, hey. So, I mean, I like kind of half consider it a meeting and an event attended by select board member because he's a town employee, and so we said hi and how things are. But so yeah, that's just me trying to be funny. So
Okay. Alrighty.
That's all I had though.
I had nothing.
Nothing. Heath.
Public Safety Building Committee, but I was not there for the entire thing. I was there for the first hour, so I had missed a good part of the fruitful discussion because there was open meeting law discussions and a bunch of other stuff in the beginning. But both B and Sarah were there, so I feel like we captured a lot of that tonight.
Yes.
I was there for part of that too.
Sarah.
Sewer committee meeting, and they were talking about the new jobs, and they, were very glad to have the job description approved so that they can hire because they really need folks. I was present on the legislative discussion about the sewer committee. About the sewer issues, and we talked about really needing grant money. So what else is new? I was at the e-services building committee meeting, and with I think this was the second meeting with the new members and the existing experts, and it was really informative, and everybody was working really hard to do a good job, as of course we would expect. I attended the Zoning Board of Appeals, and there's a select board agenda item that came out of that, so I will mention that later. I went to the Unitarian Craft and Soup and Craft Fair, so there were lots of people there and lots of town discussions, actually. The gingerbread house for the 350th. We went and built gingerbread houses and slung some pizza, and folks really loved it. I had a meeting with the police chief about speed enforcement, and that actually, I'm going to bring up an agenda item for that. I attended open space, and we're going to work to have a Lyme disease information session with the with the Northfield Bird Club. And I spoke also then, I guess, to the Northfield Bird Club.
Open space is going to do that?
Open space, I'm on open space, and we discussed the idea of doing a town-wide discussion because my research is in that area.
Okay.
And so I wanted to do a lecture or a hands-on kind of a thing, and we discussed what the best way to do that was. And we thought that the Northfield Bird Club might be fun because they have a kind of a tradition of lectures.
Yeah.
Right? So their habit is to have lectures, so it wouldn't be out of place. I spoke to a resident about instituting a bus route, and I reached out to the regional folks for more information on that and included Bernie on that email.
Okay.
I spoke to a resident about land use and a resident about issues on the warrant, the upcoming warrant. So that was me.
B.
Let's see. We had an EMS regionalization task force right before the building committee. So I sat in for a part of the building committee. And I actually went on that potential EMS site visit on Saturday. And
How many people showed up for that?
it wasn't a quorum. And the Hastings were there. So not counting the Hastings, I think there were 4 of us, plus Tori's friend. Anyway, small group. Okay. And that's it. Yep.
Okay, great. Town administrators updates.
Okay, a couple quick updates. The highway auction resulted in 53,928.15. Those are items that you approved for auction.
Nice.
Comcast construction for Mellbrook is complete. So I just wanted to let everybody know.
Yay.
We're done with that.
Oh my God, that's like a huge milestone.
Outstanding. That's great.
Sewer rate adjustment bill. So I've been going back and forth with Karen, sewer commissioner, and she's been working with Michelle, the treasurer. And the sewer commissioners, she gave some of this discussion when she came before you, that the sewer commissioners discovered in the past year that there was a billing rate issue, not a missed bill, which they had thought at one point because somehow their revenues weren't lining up between the fiscal year and what they thought they were sending out in bills, and there was some strangeness. Turns out that it's actually that the billing rate wasn't upped in the first bill of one of the sessions, and so they missed a chunk of the bill. It was voted to be upped, didn't go out in the first billing. So it didn't look like a huge bill of X amount of dollars per household. It comes down to about $59 or $60 per equivalent dwelling unit, so much, much less of a bill than thinking you're missing a whole bill
Right.
to do that catch-up.
How far back was that, do you know? Was
They think it was about the
2019?
time they went to the rate. They switched from actually trying to
To the
EDUs to
Yeah.
actually trying to do usage to
Oh,
EDUs.
okay.
And somehow one of the times they didn't go with the voted new rate
Yeah.
between the fiscal years.
Okay.
So as a result, the sewer commissioners are notifying you and then letting people know that they're going to send out the adjustment bill January 15th, which will be due March 1st. So it won't be a huge, full sewer bill. People won't be seeing some huge, like a catch-up bill, which would be like a whole bill.
And
It
it's
will-
no tax or anything, it's just fixing a past mistake.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that'll still be a surprise.
The spring bill will go out on April 1st, as usual, due May 15th. And then they're switching to quarterly billing, starting with fiscal 25. The first bill will be their July bill, then October, then January, then April. So it's going to go from biannually to quarterly.
Okay.
Okay.
So people should be kind of prepared for that. It's not going to change the amount you're getting. It might actually make it a little easier for people not to get a big bill, maybe splitting it up into
Yeah.
quarterly.
Yeah.
And it will certainly help with their cash flow and keeping on track now.
But there is going to be a fiscal year 2025 increase.
Oh, there'll be
Yeah.
a rate increase.
I just wanted to clarify.
It's based on the budget. Once the budget gets passed, then they have to make that revenue meet that approval at town meeting. So that will be happening. School Street Bridge closed. We've closed the School Street Bridge. It was the recommendation of DOT to either close the bridge or go to one lane. I do have the report here if anyone wants to look at it. I'm not sure I would drive over it. It's bad, but we have the small bridge grant that we just got in May we applied in May. We just got notification. That will be starting soon to do the engineering in preparation for a repair or replace grant, which will be the following year. So we're talking a couple years.
That's good.
But
Oh,
they
wow.
wanted to put in these barricades to reduce it to one lane down a certain, but it would be 20 to 30,000 just to buy the special plastic red and white barricade.
God.
It didn't make a whole lot of sense. So it's been published in the paper and
On the
on the website and in the recorder. And so he's notifying businesses that normally go that way. We're trying to notify residents. So, but it really seems to make the most sense for safety wise, as we are already in place to look at that bridge.
Okay.
So, animal control, just giving you an update on the Kinsella case. Mr. Kinsella has acquired the requisite insurance policies. In fact, the animal control officer has spoken to the insurance company, actually read them the requirements right out of the court order, and they all agree it meets the terms. So the insurance has been met. I verified Mr. Kinsella's address with his landlord. And the animal control officer for the city where the dog is going to reside has been notified that the dog is coming to that address, and they have agreed that the dog can come. So now Mr. Kinsella is working with the animal control officer to vaccinate, chip, and register the dog so it can be released and taken to its new address. And there's some dispute about the town fees that I have to deal with. That email just came to me today. So we're working on that because there's about when he was due to pay some fees and when we're responsible for the dog being housed. we will work on that. But yes, the dog will be
Released.
going home.
And the dog becomes the new town's responsibility because they've signed off.
Yes, no, the dog's moved. We won't. And it will be. It's deemed a dangerous dog statewide, so they know. We've been in touch with the animal control officer there, so they will.
Is there a notification requirement for the neighbors? What if there's a toddler living next door?
It depends on what the city of Boston does. It's the city of Boston's neighborhood of Dorchester, in the neighborhood of Dorchester. So can't say what they require.
Well, the conditions are that the dog must be muzzled out. There are other
Outside.
conditions.
Not
But what about
muzzled,
in
but
the
I think
hall
the dog
of
has to
the-
be leashed at all times.
No, there was
outside.
a muzzling
Yeah, I
in there.
think they were that top tier of all the restrictions
Yeah.
on that dog.
So there is
Yeah.
a lot of restrictions, but we can't
But
enforce it.
my point was just that the hallway's not outside. So if he's not outside and he's in the hall, I don't know,
I don't
my
know.
hair, my,
Don't go there because we
I
have no
know.
control
We,
over
we,
Yeah.
we did our
Yeah.
best to verify
I
everything
think
and
we did a
cross the
damn good
T's,
job of
but
it too.
it's
okay.
not.
fault us for what falls through the cracks in the court office,
Yeah.
the court clerk.
Yeah, well,
So
Well, and if this was a few years ago, it wouldn't, the designation of dangerous would not be hitting all of the towns in the Commonwealth. So wherever that dog
people used to
moves-
order dogs from one town, ordered them out of town, and that the
Oh,
state
wow.
the state
Yeah.
put a law and said
Yeah.
you
So this
cannot order
actually,
a dog.
you know, just the silver lining
About
is
eight-
that at least the notification
About 8 or 9 years
exists
ago,
statewide.
they passed the new law. Animal control officers became actual agents of this town, like either a police officer or sheriff's deputy, and could be much more official. And you couldn't order dogs from one town out of town. People used to do that. They'd order the dog out of town. We'll just move the dog
They
to
just
another
move
town.
them over to the relative's
Now,
house or something.
when they're
yeah.
deemed dangerous, it's a statewide designation. So.
Yeah.
okay.
Can we get a detail on the fees when you have that ironed out?
Yeah, we're working on that right now.
What ballpark are we in?
For paying the fees for staying at the kennel,
Yeah.
$1,400.
Okay.
It's $20 a day. The dog's been there since September something.
And that's
Well, there's some
his
court-
responsibility, right?
Well, we're having some debate about the language, but we'll be checking on that. There was some fees before that when we had the dog committed, but they waived those fees. They waived
Only in
that.
America can a dog cause serious bodily injury, and we have to pay the fees for this owner and the dog's mistake. Isn't that just fabulous? What a great,
As a
great-
town, can we
great
pursue
society.
Now,
that
he has to pay to
balance?
chip the dog, have the dog
Oh.
the shots. No, the court did not order the dog to be spayed, so
Neuter.
I just can't.
neutered.
Court did not.
Court did not order neutering.
They don't know what they're. Springfield District Court. What do you expect?
So, Pioneer Valley School District Assessment and School Projects Update, you wanted a little bit of an update on what was going forward with that. So we'll
I
assume.
just want one thing back on the animal control.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, we learned a lot from, and if you read
yes.
he told us what he thought the problems were. He telegraphed what the problems were
Not enough to
with the
reverse it.
process. Not enough to reverse it. So
We're redoing the whole process.
So we're redoing based on the info that I had, because I work with Kyle all the time because of animal control. So based on Kyle's info and what we observed from the last one and what we got out of the notes that we got out of the clerk magistrate, we need to do this process differently. So the next time something like this happens and we go to court, it won't be overturned.
Better just bring a lawyer here next time, and we can just have him here with the dog hearings.
I have
Procedurally.
one question, Alex.
Yeah.
When we do a dog case like this again, and do we need to have a separate meeting for that?
We will start doing
Oh,
that.
yeah, thank
We
you,
already
Bernie.
discussed that.
We will start doing that.
If it's that serious, if it's a
No.
dangerous
Even the
dog
last
hearing.
one was
Yeah,
2
I'm
hours.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single time now.
Don't want
Good
us up
idea.
until 10 o'clock
But that
at
was
night.
still a discussion on a
I agree.
Can't
dangerous
have some
dog.
clerk magistrate overturn it. You know?
Or like the one with Kinsella was an emotional one at the end because of the vote. We ended up canceling the rest of the meeting anyway, so it makes sense.
Right. I mean, sometimes there's a barking dog and it's a nuisance,
Right.
and those can be much faster. But anytime you're looking at a potential dangerous dog, I think you're going to definitely want to do it as a separate meeting.
And,
Yeah.
and one of the ideas was that we need to make sure to go through the steps to determine
Correct.
um,
Yeah.
the step before dangerous, nuisance first,
And then
then
each,
dangerous.
More than that, you
Oh,
have
and
to run
then
all
each of
7
right,
of the
then you have to
criteria
go through the
to get to the-
tiers.
I
in
feel like
danger.
we did that. Is there not a, we did that because we
thought
talked
we did
about,
that. That's
we
what-
talked about,
That's what this is all about, Sarah. So, like, I know this is town administrator's update. I don't really care because it's on my mind and that's how I feel.
Well,
and
it's
it's on the agenda.
Well, it's on the agenda.
Yeah. So, look, the discussion of what to do with this animal, in my opinion, as the chair and as the moderator, I did not personally think that we had to discuss the other 6 steps, given the nature of the seriousness of this incident, which is why we made the choice we did. And all Magistrate Chafee is arguing in favor of Kinsella is that, look, you guys didn't discuss anything else.
But I would say that we did. I'm sorry.
Yep. No, you're right. That we didn't discuss anything else, and as a result of it, we're going to overturn it because on a procedural.
And a procedural, weigh the procedure next to safety.
I mean, I really wish you guys could have been there to see.
I am sorry.
To see how it did. I thought I did a fabulous job. I was there for 2 hours. 2 hours in front of a clerk magistrate getting cross-examined on our processes with Junior over there doing his thing, and honestly, he didn't do a very good job. He was very disrespectful. But all these things, we set a good standard and we did a really good job. And I think in the end, we should have a good takeaway from it that we did what we were supposed to do. And these people with years of municipal experience in courts, with fancy law degrees and everything else, can just pick apart every little thing to undermine it so that they can find a way to reverse it. And that's what happened. And I'm very upset about it. I'm not happy with it at all. I thought and that's just all there is to it. So.
I wonder if we could amend our policy that's in the future so there won't be any question about who's paying for the boarding of the dog.
It's not our policy, it's Mass General Law.
That's a state policy, state law.
So, but there's some questions, so I'm gonna.
That could be something that people sign when they, so this is me just throwing it out there. That could be something that people sign when they register their dog. They're required to register their dog. They sign that if something happens with the dog and the town has to board it, that they are responsible for the fees. That seems like something that could be done.
Mass General Law says when the town's responsible and when they're not, but there's some question about when the dog was deemed dangerous versus when the order was overturned. And so you're in a gray period that has
Either way.
That doesn't have anything to do with the town having the dog taken, or technically after the order was reversed and the dog wasn't dangerous anymore.
Then that's his responsibility, right?
That's what the argument is.
Yeah.
Isn't the dog now remanded to him, but he has conditions to fulfill? It's up to him to fulfill those conditions for the release. So our argument is, we didn't hold the dog for all those additional days. You had to fulfill those conditions, and however long it took you to fulfill them is on you.
And $20 a day boarding, really low price to board a big dog.
So we have to see if we can make that, if that's a legal argument. I have to talk to the attorney. That came in at 4
It'd be
o'clock
nice
today.
to have somebody board my dog while I was in the middle of a move,
So I haven't had a chance to get that
Well,
answer yet.
I think we did a good job, Alex. Not for lack of trying, we did a great job, and I think we've got enough experience that we've been refining the process each time we do it. But the lesson learned is we'll just fill out the script even more so that it's just going to be like a checklist, and then we're not, particularly when the pressure's on. That hearing was very draining. So when the pressure's on, we're just going to be looking at a checklist and making sure each thing.
I actually see it more as a flow chart.
And I wonder if
you go this way, you go this way.
if they were to watch the video, I remember quite clearly Heath talking about several of the items specifically, saying, wow, that's no life for a dog. You know what I mean? Like when we're talking about the super limited and the super this and that.
I advise JP to watch the meeting.
Right, but I think...
The scale says something about that the recommendation for euthanization exists for a 5 and a 6 level on that light scale that is nationally recognized. I looked it up after the fact. But
not part of
that the
Mass
dog
General
can
Law.
basically not be humanely treated because of the restrictions. That's why they recommend euthanasia, because the restrictions to keep the people around the dog safe are so strict. It's
I think-
no longer humane for the
I think the big thing is to change the way you do your findings.
Yeah.
You're going to find each one of those.
Got it.
So that when,
Yeah,
when the
you guys did a
judge
great
sees
job.
it,
I just wouldn't take
You'll
it
have gone through
personally.
them.
It's
I'm not taking it
status
personally.
quo of not
Lesson
only that court
learned.
system, but that particular clerk. I'll say that much with 20 years experience there. So that stuff happens frequently. It's very
And
frustrating.
people do not become experts in dog hearings. We happen to have had however many, 5 or 4. And I think we all have enough professional experience to know, like, okay, this is how we want the process to go the next time. So we'll just nail it on the next one, just so it's not, in case it goes to
I
court.
think what's most upsetting is that the procedural critiques that he could have taken should have also, I guess, been overridden by an umbrella approach, an overlooking approach of what's going to happen if I
Danger.
make this decision, and now this dog is going to be out there with no notification of neighbors, like you're saying, and it does cost a child their life or somebody else. You know, it's just something that we were looking at as a board. We made the decision. I don't think
Yeah.
they took into consideration when they took your case on. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Well,
enough said.
but yeah, so thank you, Heath, and
Yep.
for everybody to let me say what I had to say about
Yeah,
that.
it's a team.
It was a team effort,
Yeah.
and we did really well. Pioneer Valley School District Assessment and School Projects Update.
So we're soon going to be receiving the new assessment letter from the district. This is kind of an update after their meeting. You kind of wanted to know what the next steps were.
Yeah.
We're going to be getting obviously a lower assessment amount to pay in the next assessment. So that's one piece. We will get back actual funds for the money that's coming from their E&D, their excess and deficiency account release. That will be a check. So there's 2 mechanisms going on in terms of lower. We'll actually get funding back as they release the E&D. We'll actually get lower assessments, and we'll pay less from our appropriated school account,
I
vote.
wanted to make a request. So when we go to regular town meeting, there's a paragraph that is read in order to fund different areas. I would like, if it's legally acceptable, to have the fact that they refunded X amount of money last year put in the school, what we're getting ready to fund. And that this is I would like that in there because I think that it speaks to their honesty and the way that they're doing things.
I don't think you'd put it in your motion to vote, but usually there's an explanation, so the
Yeah,
person
that's
who
what I
moves
mean.
will speak to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They need to replace the walk-in cooler and the dishwasher right now because they literally have no dishwasher and their walk-in cooler is failing, which means they won't be able to have lunch. They'll have to close down the lunch program.
Isn't their stove failing as well?
Bernardston's also getting a new dishwasher at this time. Apparently, they've got a problem. So, no, they didn't. Well, not in the point where we are having it right now.
Okay.
That's a future.
And these are items that we have to take,
Well-
that the town has to vote on moving the money?
Well, the discussion is to deduct those money coming back from the E&D.
Like I suggested for the door.
Well, the door they don't have a contractor for yet. So they don't have a quote on the door. So I was very careful that they sent us the quotes for the dishwasher. They sent me the quotes for the walk-in cooler. So I have all that documentation. So that way I know when they say, here's the E&D, this is what you would have gotten, here's the deductions. They've already sent the documentation to show. It's not that I don't trust them. It's just literally closing the circle.
Absolutely.
To make sure that we can show people why that is what they voted to release, and this is why we're only getting this amount,
All right.
because those things were
Yeah.
happening.
Well, the finance committee likes to track that detail too.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's just so they know what the quotes were and that they will be doing those 2 things as soon as possible. If the walk-in goes, they can't store any food, obviously, and that essentially shuts down the lunch program. So, and their walk-in cooler is part fridge, part freezer, so it affects everything. And they're eating on disposable plates right now because they can't wash any dishes. So, hopefully, that's all going to get resolved.
And there's a date on that?
Well, they have the quotes, so I'm assuming they're moving on it right now.
Okay. And we don't need to, so,
No, it's funds that they already have. So when you guys
so
had your
how is
discussion
this
with them,
different? I'm not trying to be obstreperous, but how is this different from the door? Because this is funds they already have. They have an emergency door replacement. The only difference is that they have a quote. But last time we were talking about, and in the minutes,
Yeah.
you know, we were talking about, hey, why does this need to be on special town meeting? Why do we need to have the town vote on it? Why is that different from, and that's, door is an emergency because our fire chief says so. And so this quote was just, so there wasn't an accident emergency. And how is that different?
because when they send the check back, they won't have any money to fund it. The money will be on us. So if you have to have, if they don't have that door fixed before January, you've got to vote them back. You get the check, you cash it. They can't subtract it from a check they've already sent you. So now you're going to have to give them
I
funding
mean,
back.
I know, but
Because they don't have it yet. So if they,
So if they had the quote then they could follow that method?
They could follow that method, but they don't even have a
Right.
contractor who's willing to
Okay.
do the job yet.
But
So-
the argument, I'm just clarifying, because
Yeah.
during the last meeting, the argument was.
Yep.
it-
They're both
that we
true.
have to allow the town to vote on the reallocation of funds, and I said, it's an emergency. It's not like we're gonna not be able to vote to have the door replaced. So I just wanted to clarify that to make sure I understood the difference.
Right.
And the fact is, there's no difference, it's just a timing issue.
Well, it's a timing and funding issue.
Okay.
Without available allocation, if they don't have the funds then we don't have the funds allocated. We can't just give them the
Yeah.
funds.
Yeah.
I got it, I
Okay.
comprehend, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a good question because it's an unusual situation that we're
Yes.
actually getting money back. So they, in effect, are both true, where you typically would take it to a town meeting, but in this case, they're able to send money back and they can deduct it from the money.
And you guys
but
expressed
they're not-
interest in allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
Right,
we
but
did,
they're
and
not
about the
ready to
door.
go on
Yeah.
the door,
Right.
even though that's been an issue for,
So we'll see, but if those checks come
Couple-
back
I guess you're having
before
trouble
the
because
door,
it's a special fancy
Right.
door shape or something like that.
if
I
if
don't
that
know.
comes back, I do have, somewhere, but if this comes back, the money comes back before the door, then we're sitting on the funding.
okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
Electrical aggregation. So the town belongs to an aggregation program, have for years. Every 3 years, we bid the electric rates.
Yep.
Eversource actually bids every 6 months, I think. They have much more often by law. The new 3-year rates will be going into effect in January. Our aggregation manager is going to be mailing postcards to every household to explain the rates and show the comparison to Eversource. So,
How'd we do?
better, but they change every 6 months. So we've got a 3-year plan. So could 6 or months or 12 years or 18 months from now they dip down for 6 months? It's very possible.
I see.
But there's 3 different levels of plan that you can choose from. So you get to choose your own rate in those particular 3 categories. So people will have that option. You will get that postcard in the mail if you're on the aggregation, and you can certainly go to our website. We have put a thing on the website to show you that message and what that looks like. So people, I just wanted to announce it so if people get the postcard, it is a legitimate thing. We will get calls, we inevitably do. I got this letter about electric rates.
Is it
And-
real? Yes.
And we say, absolutely valid, it's absolutely true
Okay.
from our aggregation.
So I have a question about something that, one of your updates here, the Comcast. In the Highland Avenue area, and I've had some residents ask me about this, in the Highland Avenue area, they updated the electric, Eversource updated the electric, and they put in taller posts. They left the smaller posts for Comcast until Comcast moved them over to the taller posts. And so that we now have 2
Are you
posts
sure it's
there.
Comcast or Verizon? Verizon's notorious for not moving off the poles.
Is that, so, because we have 2 things there, they're like,
That's
in back of some driveways, it's just extra.
Double poles.
Yeah.
There's laws about double
So-
poles, but Verizon is notorious. So
Okay.
we
I
have to
think
find
it was
out which ones
Comcast,
are.
which is why I brought it up, but
Well, let me know,
would it be
because I have a
possible to
connection
look?
to Comcast. If you
Would-
know which one it is,
Would it be possible, would you follow that up, please?
I can try. I don't know if
Okay.
I know
The
if
double
I can
polling.
recognize it. Yeah, the double polling is because someone hasn't moved, and notoriously it's Verizon.
Okay,
But
so what do we do?
well, we have to find out. I have to find out if it's Verizon or Comcast that hasn't moved.
Okay,
Because I know some. I mean, I can call. I have contacts at both that I can call and ask about. But I want to make sure I call the right one.
well, I mean, if you call one and say, did you move your poles, I guess they'll answer you. Right?
And it's on all of Highland.
It's on Highland
Is
and,
there a particular
and
citizen who-
Green, I'm sorry, what?
Is there a particular citizen that would be a good point of contact with respect to the polls? Do you know what I mean? Like they noticed it because it's sitting right outside their house?
I didn't get permission to mention anybody's name. It's outside my house though, so I could be a point of contact.
Okay.
So I'll find out. I got to find out if it's. Yeah, I'll try to figure out
It's,
who's. It's not generally Comcast. It's usually Verizon.
Highland and then the road down in between
Glenwood?
Highland, Glenwood, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It might be other places, but I'm on those 2
Take a
roads.
picture and just
How-
send it to Andrea.
How
Okay.
long ago
Yeah.
did they put the second poll in?
Oh, like maybe a year ago, a really
Oh.
long time.
That's nothing yet.
Oh, really? Okay,
We've
so I'm
thought
gonna
of
write
these.
I'm gonna send you a photo.
Okay, then I'll try to figure out if that's
Verizon or
because I need to
Comcast.
see where it's placed on the poll.
Okay,
There's an order that they go in, so usually you can tell which one hasn't been moved.
okay.
So if she takes a close-up, is there a
The
tag
old
on
and the new. I need to see both. So yeah.
Okay.
you got 'em. Okay, I can look into that.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Okay. That's me.
All right, great. So next year, we'll read all of these off, and then we'll just like have a so moved for each of them. When we get to a certain one, I will be reading something. So the first one. So I just have a question. So all of these people on here are people who are active business owners that sell their products and are contributing to a nice small town business. But like this Northfield Pizza guy, he hasn't been open for years. So does he have the right to just keep on having a permit even if he doesn't even have an active business?
He has reapplied for his
I
license.
was actually told today that his business was open last weekend.
Now they are open. Okay, I stand corrected. So
I
now they're
don't
all
know.
of a sudden open serving pizza?
I'll do a field trip.
We're not sure. But theoretically, as long as they reapply for their license, you don't have to grant it. However, we have plenty of liquor licenses, so there would not necessarily be a reason not to grant it.
All right.
We talked about this last year.
Oh,
Did we want to pause and confirm that the business? No, we don't want to.
No.
Okay.
Not if he's.
What do you think, Andrea?
I don't see a reason not to give him his license, whether he's open or not. He's got to pay for it.
Okay.
And it's not like
It
you're
will
turning
create-
somebody
it
off
will
away.
create more steps.
I see.
following.
Because
Uh,
we have sufficient that
You have
this
plenty
isn't.
of liquor
Okay.
licenses
Yes.
available.
Vote to approve the renewal for Vasilios Perios Northfield Pizza House, 198 Main Street. Annual restaurant wine and malt expires 12/31/2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? We did that. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote to approve the renewal for Paul Cameron, Cameron's Winery LLC, 1046 Millers Falls Road. Annual Farmer Series pouring permit, wines only, expires 12/31/2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Vote to approve the renewal for Shelby Hassan Basic, Northfield Golf Club Incorporated, 31 Holton Street. Annual general on premises. All alcoholic beverages expires 12/31/2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote to approve the renewal for Dennis Brennan, Northfield VFW Post 9874 Incorporated at
With fee waived.
545 Mount Herman Station Road, Annual Veterans Club. All alcoholic
Oh, you got
beverages expires 12/31/2024 with a request for the fee to be waived.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote
No
to approve.
discussion? No, I'm just joking.
Vote to approve the renewal for Condor 80 Corp., Jody Janes, Northfield Food Mart, 74 Main Street, Annual Package Store. All alcoholic beverages expires 12/31/2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote to approve the renewal for Magical Incorporated, Jody James, Mims Market, 60 Main Street, Annual Package Store, Wines and Malts, expires 12/31/2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Vote to approve the renewal for Christopher Sellers, the brewery at 4 Star Farm Incorporated, Annual Farmer Series Pouring Permit 19H, Wines and Malts, expires 12/31/2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote to approve the renewal for Paul Cameron, the Backroom Brewery LLC, Annual Brewing Pouring Permit Malt, expires 12/31/2024.
So moved.
Discussion.
Second.
Yeah, I have a question. Why we other places said wines and malts. Why did we do wines only and malts only? For the
That's the
Shelby.
licensed person.
When they apply, that's what they applied for.
Oh, okay.
And that's what we're approved.
Got it.
They have
Okay.
the two businesses
And they're two separate
Two
businesses.
separate.
They're
Yeah.
separately.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
We second. It was already
yep.
seconded.
We're in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we move on now to annual Class 2 renewals. I'll have a vote to approve the renewal for Clayton Browning, DBA Browning Automotive, 22 Upper Farms Road, Class 2 license expires January 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any-
Discussion?
Any complaints or issues with?
Yes. Any issues? Nothing? I'll ask that coming up in a few
Yeah,
moments
yeah.
here. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote to approve the renewal for H. Brian Wood, DBA Northfield Auto Body LLC, 99 Main Street, Class 2 license, expires 1/1/25.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? No issues?
No,
All in favor?
not from a
Aye.
neighborhood
Aye.
standpoint either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have
Aye.
annual Class 3 renewals now. We'll have a vote to approve the renewal for Daniel H. Browning, DBA Daniel H. Browning, 849 Millers Falls Road. This is a Class 3 license with an expiration January 1st, 2025.
What's the difference between class 2 and class 3?
So Class 3 is junkyard, and Class 2 is usually automotive.
Okay.
Used auto, I believe.
Used, that's correct.
And repair, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll
Discussion?
Second.
Were there questions, were there complaints about the junkyard?
I'm coming up to that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll state this first. So the next one involves Jeff Matosky, DBA Boyd's Auto Body at 952 Millers Falls Road for a Class 3 junkyard license. So it appears that a complaint was filed against Mr. Matosky from a resident. I don't know who that is. It doesn't say. Regarding the junkyard, the complaint stated that you're leaving vehicles in a large trailer in the front yard in violation of your special permit issued 3/18/2021. An inspection of your property on November 9th, 2023 revealed you are doing so and are in violation of your special permit. So he does have a junkyard that has that is fenced in, where all of the junk vehicles and the pickup trucks and the truck pulling trucks and whatever else goes on there has to be in enclosed place. And when you drive by it, there are trucks of sort that are hanging around out there.
Particularly was one trailer that really.
It was a one trailer.
And there's a couple of cars that were outside.
I mean, Jeff is an honest businessman. His son Jamie lives at that premises, so I would say this is probably less on Jeff, if I'm being honest, and more on the individual who resides in that house
And
next
you
to
do
the
have a letter
junkyard.
from the
It doesn't,
building inspector.
So,
the building inspector, I mean,
yes.
It was resolved.
And then next,
it was resolved? Okay.
upon inspection, a letter of notification, which was violated, but that Mr. Matosky contacted him and has rectified the situation and is in compliance with the special permit.
Okay.
So he is now currently back in compliance, which is great.
Oh, good.
responsive.
Yeah, very responsive. This is, like I said, this is Jeff's livelihood. So he's going to be very responsive and trying to be as respectful as he can be against some unfortunate people who just have it out for him, for lack of a better term. So, and I only know that because I know the family, I know the business.
Yeah, let's just take a motion.
Yeah. So that being said, we can now move with a motion. I'll entertain a motion to approve the renewal for Jeffrey Matosky, DBA Boyd's Auto Body at 952 Millers Falls Road, Class 3 license expiring January 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Discussion.
Yeah, the special permit that follows the permit that we're doing now. We're approving a renewal, so this is the special permit that we're.
No, the
No,
special,
You're renewing his class 3 license, special permit is the zoning board.
Okay.
so right, he was granted a special permit upon filing in order to have a junkyard in that, but annually he has to get a license. So
To have the
parallel,
junkyard.
but two separate
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
One-
Thank you for
yeah.
clarifying.
One deals with
Yeah.
zoning, the other deals with the
Good
select board.
question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wastewater office coordinator job description.
I just want to say they really need this. And this was approved by
Yes,
the sewer commission.
they forwarded it to me. This is their next.
Can I just ask a question about the title? Do we have other similar positions? Like clerk or administrative assistant? I'm just looking for consistency among, like when I went through the classification, there's, in the list of all the different titles and the grades. If this is similar to something else, I'm just.
May I speak to that? Because at the sewer commission meeting, one of the things they said is because they're having trouble getting people in,
Yeah, no.
that they are choosing titles that would, if they can't elevate the pay too much, that the title is part of the inducement. And that was what they did with the previous one, to make it a assistant director. And that, because
But they haven't
discussed.
posted these yet, so they don't know what the response is.
Right, but
These are new.
they are,
I get the request.
hiring
Yeah.
is really, evidently, they're really tight in the area, so.
but
We
these
don't-
are new.
I would say we don't have a lot, because,
I
like, for
just wanna
example, the
consider it.
person who's assistant to the police is a matron, because she's in a police, so
Okay, okay.
they're
Whatever's
generally-
consistent with
there,
the market.
there isn't like enough of them, I would say, to be consistent with, they're all called this.
Okay,
You know, we have a boards
Okay.
clerk,
all right, I withdraw the question.
so there's a few, but it wouldn't be
Just
a,
in terms of personnel in general, I'm
Yeah.
gonna look for consistency. If it makes sense because it's a particular department, that's fine. I just wanna know.
And is this
Oh.
wastewater officer, comma, coordinator, is that the title, or is it a wastewater office coordinator?
wastewater, the way they've got it written as is wastewater office coordinator, because the
Oh,
department is
yeah.
wastewater.
Office?
So
Officer,
they probably
officer.
don't need,
No, no, officer.
yeah, that's just,
There's nothing.
no, they probably just need office coordinator, they don't need it to
Office
say.
Coordinator.
Because look
Right.
at, yeah, look at the
Department
title.
is wastewater.
The title says
What do you have,
officer.
Officer.
At the top.
Officer coordinator.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
just their typo, yeah. we'll
Okay.
fix that.
Okay.
Just clarifying.
Also, superintendent has an E, doesn't it?
Superintendent?
One of those words I will spell wrong, even though I write it like 10 times a day. Spell it wrong.
Yeah,
Oh,
the-
Dant or Ent?
The reports,
Yeah.
it's correct in supervision required, but they sent it with the, just in the reports too.
Okay, so reports too, okay, consistency.
But I would say, yes, call it office coordinator, and department is wastewater department. You don't have to do the position title as wastewater office coordinator.
Right.
Gotcha, okay, this is job description. Okay, got it.
Right. They
Okay.
can call it wastewater office coordinator, but it's really an office coordinator for the wastewater department.
Yes.
So
Right,
that's
Yeah.
how I would
no,
go.
I know, and she was pumping it in, it's been pumped into the format so it looks like the rest of the
Yeah.
towns.
Right.
Yeah, great
And
job.
have we determined the grade and the level?
You
and
can't
so
until you
forth?
accept the job. Then
No,
we'll go
that's
through
when
the
the
classification.
comes in.
Classification.
I remember you're the classification
Oh, yes,
specialist.
they've done it.
No, I just like doing
just
it. I
did
just
one.
did two.
I'm waiting for wastewater to classify their assistant
Assistant-
superintendent.
I just did the assistant superintendent classification.
But they haven't
Based
sent me
on the
that.
job description we approved at the last meeting.
Yeah.
So then
And
the,
the highway.
yeah, and highway.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to accept the wastewater office coordinator job description
Second,
as amended.
Do we have any further discussion on that?
no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well done, whoever wrote this.
Probably Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're working on it, getting their jobs in.
Thank you, Karen. Okay. Oh,
So here's some policies you guys have been working on since
Yippee.
since
Since the beginning of time.
your policy planning meeting back in September.
Yep.
So I put them in what they are: select board policy, public participation, Northfield select board meetings. You had them in draft, you made the changes that you wanted, and I've typed it up. So this one actually doesn't really,
I have a question though, I'm sorry. So, the chair may choose to accept public comment when the agenda item is reached during the meeting. I know that's often when people come, right? They want to hear, they want to talk on a certain topic. Do we want to, I don't know, guarantee that? Do we want to make that
No.
the chair will open for comment on a specific topic or something? You
that's
see
a
what I'm
public
saying?
hearing.
Uh,
You guaranteed under a public, if they were to do a public hearing, it's absolutely guaranteed for a citizen comment period on the topic.
It just says the chair may choose to accept public comment when that agenda item is reached. So they're not allowed to come during citizens' concerns and talk about the thing on the
Oh, yes.
agenda. Well, it
We just
says,
can't discuss
We
it.
can't respond.
At that time.
even though it's on the agenda,
We can respond when we get to the agenda item.
when we get to the agenda item.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure that
Yep.
if people showed up for something that they didn't miss citizens' concerns and then not get to participate.
Which is usually
Nope.
why, if they will come, say we have a hot topic, they'll come up and they'll speak about it. Alex has said in the past to them, like, we will be discussing this soon, if you'd like to speak then. And sometimes we've moved things in an agenda item and let
Yeah.
them talk
Yeah.
Right.
and moved it, when the citizens' concern was way down at the bottom.
You know,
People
I'm
were
not-
just able to,
A chair, in my learning of this position, a chair is not here to like shun the voices of people, but we have to maintain a reasonable amount of Robert's Rules of Order for conducting a public meeting. So there are a lot of times that it's just a discretionary thing in good faith for the chair to make a determination, what is best. in the situation. And a lot of times when there's an individual in the crowd who, you know, keeps their hand up like they do for like 10 minutes at a time, that's ridiculous. I see you. Put your hand down.
It's distracting too.
It's distracting. If we can get to a moment where we're discussing something in regards to this topic that you'd like to share some comments on, you know, that's fine. But when you start with the back and forth game and all this other things, that's when it's like, well, this is what rules are for. So,
Yep.
no, I absolutely agree with the fact that we should definitely be able to acknowledge people, but just as long as it's not like this ongoing discussion. If you want something like that, write to the board and then get on the agenda to discuss your business.
Okay.
You
So-
were here for those days before these things existed and that type of stuff happened.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Well,
Marathons.
just one note on the chair too, the purpose of the select board meeting is to get, there's a certain amount of business that we have to get done, so the chair does need some discretion in terms of how to weigh all the timing of everything in order to get all the business done as well as hear from citizens concerned, so.
Yeah.
Because if we don't get the business done, then that affects
Right.
other citizens or everyone else. Okay,
So, are we looking to approve this?
The meeting stuff, right?
Yeah.
the first
Public
one.
participation at Northfield
I
Select
move
Board
that
board meetings.
we approve the policy for public participation at Town of Northfield Select Board meetings.
Second.
Second. Oh.
Okay, well, Heath gets a second. Discussion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Citizens' concerns protocol.
This is a draft.
Yes.
They all are still technically
Okay.
drafts coming to you, although this one had that much change from what you already had. This is not a huge change from what you already had. Basically, you decided to put in, each speaker will be given 15 minutes or 3 minutes during citizen comment period because you just had may speak and you wanted to put in that time frame. Other than that, this is the exact same protocol that you had.
Yep.
So really, it's only where each speaker, and then the total be 15 minutes. It's that one sentence
Clarification.
that got changed.
Well,
The rest of the
and
policy is exactly the
Once
same.
again, in chair discretionary power, somebody doesn't come here very much, they may not know the whole thing. I mean, I do run a stopwatch, but if you're going to run over 30, 45 seconds, wrapping up your point, I'm not just going to be like, okay, see ya, bye. You know,
Yeah.
that's not very correct.
Stop.
Yeah, we don't run this town that way. So, yeah, just as long as you're just respectful of the fact that we have a meeting to get through, business, as B just said, then, you know, that's fine. So, yeah, I looked at this, I was like, yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and then
Um,
at the end it says, the board welcomes valuable input from the public at appropriate times during the meeting with recognition from the chair at his or her sole discretion.
Yeah,
Right, again, it is a
So-
policy. You can
Yeah.
do things differently should the meeting require it.
right. I mean, that's just the style that I've incorporated over
Well,
the
I
years.
think it's a nice partner with the one that we just looked
Yeah.
at, so.
And you know, I've learned that. I learned some of those tricks from people like Heath when he was chair, and with you as well, B. So
Thank
it's
you.
just, oh no, it's important because the way you learn about this business is not by just like saying like, oh, it's my way or the highway. It's actually looking at how other people have done it, especially those who have the experience. So
Yeah, and I'm noticing your changes since your first chair too, and learning
Yeah.
from you this time, so. Cool.
anybody want to start slamming their hand on the table?
Days are long ago.
Sorry, I had to.
For old time's sake?
That's not the way That's not the way we do things here.
Okay. Bam.
So we'll take a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
The citizens' concern.
I move that citizens' concern protocol be approved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Personnel policy for electronic mail.
Again, there wasn't a huge change to this. The whole policy's in there because I think it's important people see the whole policy.
Yeah.
You made a few changes, but you didn't really redraft the whole policy.
Yeah.
I have some concerns.
Sure.
So I think that, as I understand it, the reason for this policy is to make sure we have everything on the record. And I think that one way to do that, which would be less limiting, less controlling of the select board, is to say instead of, so I'm on upon assignment, that paragraph,
Oh, the third one?
Yes, the
Okay.
third paragraph.
Yep.
Starting with all boards, committee members, and going down to the bottom. Replacing that with any town business done via email will include an official town email account. So the point is that if an official town email account is in the email chain, then it is part of the record. I think saying that you have to come from a certain account or forwarding accounts specifically, I think it's a lot of extra back and forth. As long as any chain contains an official town email, that preserves the record.
I disagree. I say that if you're a town employee
We had this
and
discussion
your
before.
your email needs to be audited, it needs to be on servers that are redundant and backed up, and it needs to be easily
And
queryable
supported.
and can be given to public records requests. It needs to be through your town email. I mean, I've never sent an email from the town that wasn't through my official email. I was a huge advocate for everybody getting one.
You started that.
Yeah, because when I was a police officer here, I was using my personal email, getting law enforcement sensitive emails. Like, that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to get away from. And if
But does the finance committee have, members of the finance committee don't?
Should.
Well,
I think everybody
they
who's
don't.
in this town should
Well,
have one. But
and so
there's
my point is
limitations.
unequal enforcement and also limitation of us.
Well,
Okay, go ahead, Andrea.
a couple different things. One is, at $30 a month for backed up full emails, we can't afford to give 100 people on committees their individual emails. Plus the policing of that, changing it when they get on and off the committees. They have an official finance committee email. So all business is done through the chair, through the finance committee email. So if someone contacts a committee member, the committee member is supposed to pass that to the chair, who then goes back and forth and responds from the finance committee account. The problem with saying everything has to be CC'd is, first of all,
I don't mean CC'd, I just mean as long as, if I send an email that includes you and other people, that's part of the chain.
I guess I don't understand why, if you have a town email account and you're conducting town business, that you wouldn't use your town email account.
Because I draft and stuff like that in Gmail, so I have all my files in an area, and I
I'm not
have,
sure that makes any difference about using the email.
yeah, it does. So, but that was my suggestion for the edit, was that any town business done via email will include an official town email
I
account.
think, quite honestly, Sarah, we've talked about this before, and I think I mentioned at our session with Jeff Blake that from an IT perspective alone, never mind all of the other stuff that Heath already mentioned, it's really important. And also for the way things come across to people, that it's coming from northfieldma.gov account.
I think there's also still
And-
the question of, if you're using a non-town email account,
As a
where
select board member,
that email is being stored is a Gmail, which is free, so you get what you pay for. But second of all, that opens up to, where are you hosting that? That's now on your personal computer or your personal things, because Gmail we don't have access to. Here,
But we are considering doing tablets.
right? And that would
Yeah.
be that.
And that'll be really nice, because we can keep
Tablets.
everything all in
yeah,
one.
I don't think you were here. We talked about it.
I can explain it later, but yeah, and that
In
would
the
be-
minutes.
But you would only be using your official town email account. You
Yeah.
couldn't put anything on there. So the point is, you're going to be using your
Yeah.
official town email.
That would be easier.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm just concerned with the number of boards and people that we have, that if they don't get things to the chair to get through the account, that we lose that. We need people to get into that routine. I don't want people to forget.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm forgetting to CC it. Now there's a chain of, sometimes I've seen chains where I get one email, and the only reason I see the first email is because somebody responded and CC'd it the second time.
Got it.
It becomes a real nightmare to
Yeah.
make sure it's consistent.
Are you okay with that, Sarah? Because honestly,
had email
honestly,
requested.
having managed IT, if it's only one person, that's what people always say. If it's only one person, and then at some point, then everybody starts doing it, or different people start doing it, and the management of it and tracking emails becomes exponentially difficult.
And if you don't think
You
it's
know-
going to happen, we have had an email request for someone's email. It has happened.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
We had a public records request for
Oh, now I understand.
someone's email. So
Okay.
it does happen. It's happened here.
And then the other,
Right.
my only other little concern on this
Actually,
is
twice.
that any external communications to board committee members received from the public must be CC'd to and answered from. I mean, sometimes people reach out specifically because they want to be private, so you can communicate the information.
There's
But
nothing
it's
private about you or any of us as a select board
If you
person.
give
There's
any
no
kind of
expectation
select
of
board,
privacy.
well, if you
There's
give
no-
any kind of select board advice as, or in your position as a select board member, you've created
It's
a public
automatically a
document.
public
Got
record. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what you sign up for
Anon-
when you
Well, it
become
would,
elected.
the anonymity of them, not me.
Right, and but they need to
Tell them to
call
call
you
you.
then. Yeah,
Okay.
they need to call you.
Anything they
not-
put in writing, phones are still anonymous.
Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
that's one big thing that I've entertained phone calls and in-person meetings. V and I have done it with citizens before, and they've come to us with a concern. It's like, okay, you always end the conversation with, great, if you want us to take action on your complaint, we
Yeah.
need to get it in writing. And that's usually where some people will just squash it. Some people just
I
want to vent.
know.
But for us to take any action, especially if it were to go so far as to a disciplinary action leading up to termination or something like that,
Right.
that's going to be required. The lawyers are going to want to say, what did that citizen say to you? We're going off our recollection. If
Yeah,
that citizen
yeah.
changes their mind and goes, I never said that, now
Now
you've
it's an
got us.
issue.
So
Right.
you always entertain the conversation, but then at the end you say, okay, if you want me to take action, I'm going to need it in writing. So
Okay.
they have to provide.
And I ran into that discussing something with the health board, an anonymous complaint, and I took it to the board of health, and they said we can't do anonymous. But it seemed like we just got on that.
And they need
On
to-
that, wait, hang on just a second, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
just before
sorry.
I lose it.
Yeah.
On the annual Class 3 renewals, the complaint, was there a name on the complaint? Because it seemed like there was
We know
not a
who
name
the
on the
complaint was
complaint.
from.
I can explain that.
Okay,
Okay.
Sandra, please.
So the process, Sarah, is when there's a complaint, it goes to the zoning enforcement officer, which is Jim Hawkins. He takes care of the complaint. If Mr. Rotowski hadn't complied, then it would have been stepped up to the select board level. If you want to find out who the complaint was about, you can talk to Mr. Hawkins.
No, I don't need to, I just wanted to make sure we were being
But I just
consistent.
wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that it's not anonymous, it's just that it didn't get to the select board level on.
Right.
Because-
He,
okay.
he
Because
knew,
he
he
fixed
knew
it.
who,
On to us.
Okay.
he knew who he was dealing with.
Yeah, thank you for clarification.
Okay.
This is good, we're getting up to speed on everything.
Yes, we are. Okay, so we should just.
I move that we approve the electronic email access and use policy.
We have a motion from B and a second from Keith. Discussion anymore? Good. All right. All in favor? Aye.
I'm gonna hold my nose and vote aye.
Yay!
Unanimous passing.
Good job, Sarah. I mean, good job, really expressing and getting us all to really think about it and go through it, and then we arrive at consensus, so good job to everybody.
Yes.
Next
Okay.
one.
Social media policy. Yeah.
This
let's,
is a personnel policy, and it was new to you when it was
It-
presented in
yes.
September. There was some feedback, there was some things changed around, and then it was said, send it to the lawyer. So I did. And the lawyer went through it and said, this is compliant and in line with what they
Well, we had
what they
based-
see and approve for towns,
We had based this off of another municipality's social media policy that we saw.
which had been approved, but we also had our lawyer
That's
review
right.
it as well.
And
So it has been reviewed by our attorney.
And this is pretty consistent with
What
what
they're
they
ex-
do with other towns, not just
Yes.
one town.
Yes.
Yeah. They're not gonna reinvent the wheel.
no, there's no reason to.
Okay. All right, I move that we approve the social media policy as presented.
Second.
Discussion. Yeah, just for myself, for all of us on the board, and all town employees, just use your head. Think about, like, is this something I want to have out for the world to see? So,
Yeah.
I
Am I
just think-
representing the town?
am I representing the town?
Yeah.
Is there something involving the town here?
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say, like.
Yeah, and I think, just to circle back to Skip's meeting with us, this was something that the fire department was concerned about because they had their own policy.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
You're held to a higher standard when you
yeah,
are in a public administration or elected official. So,
Like this-
just wanted to put that out there.
This is pretty clear.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, great. So the next one,
This
So-
one you had on your last agenda for first review, but you didn't get a chance to discuss it because the meeting ran late. So this is your first review of this. So I'm not necessarily expecting that you would accept it tonight because I don't have any comments from you
so
yet.
here's the
I
problem.
have comments for you, but I didn't
Here's the
type them
problem.
up.
So
Okay.
we have a very talented law firm that is aiding us, but they also have to aid lots of other municipalities in our Commonwealth because they're experts at what they do and people need their opinion. But there is also another side of that. And the other side is that we do not want to set a precedent in this town where every single person that serves on a board has free reign and access to a town attorney. I think that is very dangerous. I think it's costly. And it's a bit of a headache.
It's not budgeted.
It's not budgeted.
It's
so
not budgeted for
I
everybody
believe
to access it.
with the additional powers and responsibilities that a chair has the discretion to make a determination on, that the authorization for the usage of council should be first consulted to by the select board chair and the town administrator as it is.
Well, they do.
Well, as it's written.
I
as
just
it's
want
written.
to say that you have a town bylaw that was passed about my job on this, and you have a job description for me. And in both of them, I am the liaison, and the chair is a liaison to the town attorney.
Okay.
If you want to change that,
You'd have to change the bylaw.
well, but I mean, you want to change that. If everything has to go to the chair, just be
Oh,
aware
God.
that you're going to have to answer pretty quickly if I have to send everything to a chair. I usually only allow, the reason that I do it that I think most towns do it this way is sometimes I can answer the question. Sometimes somebody's already
Well,
asked
see,
it.
Andre,
The
here's the
first
thing.
person we go to is the attorney. That's
This is what bothers me.
$300 an hour.
This is what bothers me. So we pay you a very good salary, and as a result of that, you have decades of experience in town administration, and you also went to law school. And I'm not trying to like spotlight you for things, but it's like you know how to access and interpret legal information through MGLs, through CMRs, through policies and procedures, through what other towns do.
But I don't give a legal opinion
Right,
for the
but you
town.
don't give a legal opinion because
No, she can't.
It's not my role.
It's not your role, but you can save a lot of time and inconvenience if we just consult the necessary parties. There's other ways of accessing the information. So when I'm hearing that like this person, that person wants to all just have these direct lines to good old faithful Jeff Blake, that's ridiculous. We shouldn't be doing that.
Well, I mean, basically what I try to do is, first of all, if it's something that's going to go to the attorney, I try to nail down the question to the real core. Because people will throw out very open-ended questions that can result in actually answers that don't answer their question.
Yeah.
So the idea is to drill that down. And or if they're just looking for a citation, where, I want to know what the law is on this, I can give them that.
Yeah.
So those things can be weeded out.
Without spending.
The lawyer
$300.
also has concerns that if any committee member, and you're approaching 100 in this town, board or committee member can access the lawyer, people phrase questions very specifically when they want to hear a certain kind of answer. I'm not saying they ask for their answer, but they can sometimes phrase things that way. The lawyer doesn't know who these people are who access them. They just send an email or make a phone call. His practice already is, his procedure already is, he immediately contacts me and says, I just got this request. Because he can't do it with 100 people. And if he gets requests from multiple people on the same board and committee, phrased slightly differently, the lawyer could be giving advice. Well, I got this from the lawyer. No, I got this from the lawyer. And the truth is they both got that answer, but the way they phrased the question determined the answer they get. So if they get
hourly rate regardless.
well, but the point is you could end up with what looks like conflicting information from the lawyer when it isn't because of the way the question was asked.
I do have, so my concern actually is about the select board because, all due respect, the chair is raised among equals, right? In the time when we're voting, you're one vote.
That's correct.
And so when if the select board needs to get information from the town attorney, I think that's a separate category than the other boards. And I think perhaps, maybe we would put some sort of time limit or whatever, but meaning hourly limit or something but I think that the select board as members, in addition
Do you mean
to the chair.
individual? Just clarification, do you mean individual? Because when you say the
Yes,
select board.
I do mean individual select
Okay,
board
'cause
members.
the select
I
board
think-
is a body, and if we have a legal question, it needs to be discussed as a body, and then it can be
But I think
parceled out.
we come here and we're making policy for the town, we need to have discussions, and I think that it's reasonable that we be able to consult the town attorney individually as part of that, and I think that's separate from the other boards.
I think that it explicitly opens up his major concern. That
Which
he could
is?
get different questions from different members of the select board on the same topic.
Then he's
phrased slightly
affecting our
differently.
deliberation.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
more
I
than
think that
he,
Potentially.
the way you phrase a question to him might get you an answer. The way
Well, the
he
way I
phrases a
interpret
question
it.
might get an answer.
We're talking-
and he might
okay,
give two
okay.
opinions on the same thing.
We're talking about organizational behavior here.
Right.
And I went to school for 7 years, so that doesn't make me an expert, but it makes me knowledgeable in it. Organizational behavior. So we are a board of individuals. I am the chair. I am the resource, the resource of this board that sets the agenda and moderates the meetings and has other little things, signatory and other powers that come up when emergencies or crises happen.
Yep.
So as a result of that, in talking about organizational behavior, if any of you have or need to discuss or consult on a topic, give it to me. Give it to Andrea. She will call me. I will call her. We send it to the attorney, we get an opinion, and we have it go back. It's that simple.
Or
There's
come
not
on
a
the
whole lot
agenda.
to it.
Yeah.
We start playing all these little tiny games of, I'm going to call the attorney and get an opinion for how I want my
Okay,
question
but
answered.
I reject
So-
the idea of it being a game. What my point was that I wanted to,
It's
as
not a game.
but can we then be open to, if there's a legal question, that we would table something or whatever? I feel like I don't want to foreclose the opportunity to discuss it just because we don't have the opportunity to consult. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
So let me
Okay.
give you an example.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'm going to say in my 4 years or almost 4 years, I have very rarely spoken to the attorney. And there's more than one.
Twice in 5 years for me.
Right. So it's not a common occurrence. But when we were, Alex and I were going to go to court, I came and I talked to Andrea and I said, I'm really concerned about an individual select board member and what our individual roles in, it's not like I go to court on a regular basis. So, so she contacted Jeff Blake. That's the only time that I've ever had a consult on something was because of the dog case and going to court. So I think it's possible, if something comes up and then we bring it to the board, but otherwise we're still kind of going through Andrea, because I was weighing all of here's what, I just talked to somebody who gave me advice on you shouldn't go, and then somebody said you should go, and then, anyway, so then I went to Andrea, not per the policy, but that's how it worked. And then she got Jeff on the phone and we did it right there, and she circled back to Alex. So that's the only time that I've really used Jeff Blake. So I don't think it's going to happen a lot, but if an individual feels really strongly, they have the ability to bring it to the board. And then we could say, all right, I always ask for authorization in the sense that, okay, authorize me like you guys did for me to go to other towns and talk about the Shell Bridge, right? You kind of have to be authorized because outside of the board, we have no power.
Right.
Yeah, as an individual to do things.
Could I request, please, that I'd really like to see the words. So if we contact as a board, that we could have a copy of the legal response?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
And
Well, it might be a memo, there's two things. Sometimes I call them and I ask for advice on behalf of the board or a board or committee member, if it's pertinent. If we ask for a legal opinion, that's a very different animal. That's a written, documented research. So sometimes you can call and say, hey, we've got this question about the going to court for the dog officer.
Right.
We don't need a legal opinion on that. He gave his legal advice. So
And
we
we
have
can
to
have
do
a
it as a
note to
summary,
that
just so
extent.
people
Yeah,
understand that the
okay.
lawyer might have a conversation with Alex or I, might not write a full-scale legal, because if I ask the lawyer, I would like your
No,
legal opinion,
that's what
he
I
then
mean.
gives me back something, and it's way more expensive, but that's something because we feel that we
Yeah.
need a legal opinion to rely
Good to
on,
know.
on behalf of the town for
Right, but
any
the
number
email,
of
you know,
reasons.
email, we're
A
gonna send
question.
back a, yes. I would just like to, because I find
Just so
that
people understand the distinction.
for those, for the same reasons, I find that people interpret words differently, and I would like to see what the lawyer says.
Right, and
Yeah.
we just want to make sure we say, oh, I'm asking your opinion versus I'm asking for a legal opinion. We throw the
I'm
word
asking
out
for your
there,
advice.
but there's two different, there is two different standards.
This
and I
is the
just
thing
want
when
people
you,
to be aware of them.
you deal with lawyers, you know, it's just, they're very interpretive in how they
Very
think.
careful.
You know,
Well, a legal opinion is
Like, very
something that you
careful,
can
yeah.
take to take to court. They're going to write a researched legal opinion for it if you ask for one.
Yeah, I've
Right.
gone, probably since I've been on select board, I've gone contacted the State Ethics Commission for questions. And they'll give you a written
Yeah.
response.
Talk to the attorney of the day, they'll give you.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
give you something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've done it, and when I didn't like the first one,
You
I-
called back?
I've called and talked with
On
a
a
different
different
one,
day?
and then I get the same response. I'm like, okay, but it's free,
Yeah.
and it you know, if it was something that not within their realm, but that is free for you to get a
And-
open
Yeah.
meeting, questions, things
Yeah.
like that.
And Skip had a question about the trust.
Yeah,
Skip emailed me and said, I have a question about whether or not these documents were sent from the lawyer to the trust, these signed things that he was talking about. Can I contact the attorney? And I wrote, Dear Jeff, CC is Skip. He has a question for you about the trust. And boom, then he got his answer. So it was just a question to me, so then we know it's being asked, but I didn't need to be involved in it. That
Yeah.
one was very simple.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and it does cost money, so we need to track it that way too.
And they should, because they're
Yeah.
experts at what they do.
Well,
You should be paid for it.
We've been careful. Our legal line item.
It stayed flat for a few years now. I had
Yeah.
to raise it the first couple of years. It was pretty low, but I think it's been pretty
Well,
flat
we
now.
had the First Light stuff too.
Yeah.
I think number 8 is useful here. If a board has a separate line item for legal counsel, they'll not need to follow this procedure. They just need to stay within their budget. I think that's a good out if they think that they must.
Well, the assessors have a line item for legal.
Right.
So obviously they don't need to come to me if they're dealing, and they have sometimes different legal counsel that they're dealing with for specific things having to do with the assessors. So if they have a legal line item, they don't go through me.
So it's 20 of 9. Do we want to vote on this tonight? I had a couple of minor edits, but I'd just as soon send them in as opposed to
Okay.
continuing the discussion. I'm just
Okay, yeah,
looking
that's
to
good
get out
enough.
of here
Yeah,
before.
yeah, that's good
Okay,
enough.
so you're gonna
And
send
we've
me
got
edits.
we've got this PBRS thing that needs to
All
be.
right, so
Okay, I'm
we'll-
gonna put that on your next agenda for a quick
Yeah.
review. So anybody
Yeah.
who has any edits or suggestions, please
Okay.
send them in and I will bring
I
you back
will.
a highlighted
Now
document.
that I'm done with classification, then I can,
Okay,
time to do that.
No,
Okay.
you're not. You're gonna get a new one.
all right.
Ugh.
Topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting, so we have something here that came in. For a select board appointment as a municipal representative to the Pioneer Valley Regional School District collective bargaining. You know, B, have you done this before?
Yes, but it
Was
was
on
to fill in for Heath was the authorized, and then as chair, I stepped in when Heath couldn't do it anymore. So I'm no longer the designee. And I talked with Patricia about that today.
So
Okay.
can I clarify what the question is? Somebody specifically asked, or they just asked for somebody to come do it?
When they're gonna do negotiations of a bargaining unit at the school,
Is this in the packet, or do you want me to send this over?
here's another one.
Here.
They ask each member
That's
of
the
it's for a
procedure she-
regional school district. They
That's
ask
the
each,
procedure she has to
right,
follow.
each one has to send a representative. Only one of the representatives will get chosen in the end. But
Right.
each town sends one, and then that group determines who the one representative to the collective bargaining table will be for that collective bargaining session. So you may send someone from this board, and then it ends up being a select board member
Well,
from
that's how Heath got
Bernardston.
it,
Right, so,
right? Because there were Bernardston and Lyndon were there, and
Yes.
you.
Yeah, so they asked all of us to show up, so it was
We will all
one
send
representative from all of the towns. only us and Bernardston showed up and literally it started turning to almost this like embarrassing, well, I don't want to do it, like rock, paper, scissors. It was
Okay.
it was like for the sake of it not looking like we are so disinterested in it, we're going to compete for who doesn't want to do it. I'm just like, no, we'll do it. Like it looked really bad. So we did it, but I'm not understanding why the other towns still aren't participating. But
They don't want to do it.
And what's the workload on this?
You have to go to collective bargaining.
depends on how long they hold out on each other. But it,
Usually you're sitting in my experience, it was a few meetings where you're sitting in with the school committee in executive session.
And
And
then
so
the
I-
negotiators are going back and forth, and then you'll meet
Right.
together, and then you break apart.
But-
there's a few meetings that break into how they're getting to where they even want to be, and then they get into the back and forth. So I think I might have been the beginning part of it.
I was at the tail end of the
Okay.
so probably a lighter load. If you think about the school committee meetings being on like a Thursday, they'll do the executive session at the end, and you sit in on that, and sometimes it's Zoom. My only concern was and I think Heath had this concern too, was the notice to the select board, to the town representative was
Minimal.
like a couple of days, and that doesn't work for a week.
Well, I'm really interested in learning about how the whole collective bargaining, the sausage making.
Perfect.
So,
Do you want to do it?
yeah, I would like to if that's okay.
Yeah.
Unless somebody, does Bernie want to instead?
No.
Okay.
It'll be an eye opener.
Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
emotional people. People get very passionate about their jobs.
No,
The one thing
you'll
I did
learn,
say
yeah.
that last meeting when Pioneer was here was how their negotiations, should they hold out on pennies, turns into public perception issues. So if there were anything, I would hope that you might represent me do it any way you want. I would echo that if it comes to it. It's like you
Don't
sit-
fight over pennies.
because it's like people. I'm hoping that we see the school's budget on a second line item.
Yeah, it's actually,
not going to make.
it's a delicate balance that you have to walk, because the school budget in general is 2/3 of the town's budget. So you want them to minimize their expenses, but on the other hand, you want to make sure that they have teachers or other collective bargaining units. You don't want to lose teachers as a result of salary. So it's a fine line, and it'll be highly educational. I'm not sure it'll be fun, but it'll be educational.
Yeah.
Stuff in years past because they were offering very small raises for teachers, but double-digit percentage raises for administrators.
Okay, so I'll
Yeah.
entertain a motion to appoint Sarah Kearns from the Select Board of Northfield as the municipal representative to the Pioneer Valley Regional School District Collective Bargaining.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in
Just
favor?
thank you.
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Great, yeah. Have
Thank
fun.
you, Sarah.
Don't drink,
And now it makes me worried.
don't drink too much.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I gotta go to work tonight, so it's time. I don't see any other committee or board appointments. Oh, yeah, proposed agenda item.
Okay, let's do
I
that.
have a couple, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When I went to the zoning board of appeals, they said they had sent stuff to the select board, but we haven't seen it. They
What?
said they had sent something for the select board.
For what?
There's, a citizen has some runoff that's running across town land, and they think it's, and they have engineering reports to that effect, that it's because of actions that the zoning board of appeals agreed to.
I think they sent this to the building inspector. I don't think it ever
They
came to
they
the.
told they
What?
and they were supposed to have a site visit, and they were supposed to invite the select board, and they forgot to invite the select board.
Oh, no, we don't go on site visits.
Well, this
Generally
is.
speaking.
I'm just telling you that.
Is this
so
from
I'd
the
like
meeting? Is this from the meeting the other
to
day?
ZBA. Yeah.
Did we get anything officially?
Okay,
I don't
I've
either.
got yeah.
I only remember hearing this because somebody
This
said
is-
something in the other room.
Can we put it on the agenda?
So-
I don't know what it is.
The Mitchell property was on
Yeah.
the agenda, but I don't know what the,
It just said Mitchell property, didn't even list what it was
Correct.
about.
The Mitchell property on the agenda of the ZBA was about they have a regular
So we should-
inspection.
yeah, so we should not be talking about this.
Yeah.
So can we
Now.
put it on the agenda?
Would they send us
I
whatever the
would
agenda
take-
topic is?
I would highly recommend.
I don't think it was appropriately on notified on their agenda. Mitchell Property doesn't tell me anything. If I
I
looked at that, I wouldn't
The-
have known it was about.
It is not.
No, I'm just
It's-
saying, I think
this
that
is-
we
this
would
is
not put Mitchell
legal.
Property
So
on our
this is what I'm
agenda.
going to put. Well, I'll
No.
write. I'll send you a specific thing. It wasn't.
I would.
It was about the select.
I would delve into it first and have maybe the select board chair talk with the chair of the ZBA.
That's what we're
This,
for.
And
the
figure
chair
out-
of the ZBA said they had sent it to the select board. It was not the ZBA's responsibility. It was the select board's responsibility, which is why I'm bringing it to put.
No,
on
it
the
might be the
agenda.
zoning, wait, it might be the zoning authority. It might have gone to Jim. It's not necessarily the select board,
They-
but I don't have anything.
The secretary stated that she had sent it to the select board.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
I don't have.
So
anything.
I'm not I wasn't trying to do
Yeah.
a gotcha. I was saying
Yeah.
I'd like it on the agenda.
I need to know
No.
what it is. No, I
No.
mean, we need to get whatever it is
Citizens.
they want to do, because otherwise,
Okay.
what can you discuss?
So I'll get the citizens to send in a request.
Right, because
Yes.
you don't
Yeah.
have anything to talk about, and we don't
Right.
even know if it's appropriate for you or
No.
whether it's a Jim question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Get.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Anything else?
The only thing I'd like to add to our queue of things that are on here was just that we haven't heard from the rec commission in a while, and we have several departments listed on here.
Because we've been busy with the
Follow up.
350.
Yeah, we're kind of letting them close that up.
Just
Yeah.
I just want to put
Yeah.
it in the queue so as things settle down, we get into the new year, we can eventually invite them in to see if there are some of those things, because previous rec commission leaders said we didn't circle around them enough, so I'm just remembering those
No,
conversations.
and they're going to need extra support, I think, based on what they're presenting to
I
the
think they
finance
should,
committee.
right, and so
Okay,
that, I
yeah.
think we should have them in after
Yeah.
the holidays.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I've
It'll
put
tie in with budget.
I've put, your next agenda already has the Conservation Commission scheduled, the Police Department policies and procedures, you all have a thing there with the beginning of them. It's
Yep.
certainly a first discussion, I don't think you're gonna probably get through all of it. Let me know if you want to have the police chief at that meeting, or whether we're pushing it off. I told him
Oh my
it
God,
may
I
be the
still gotta
9th, the
review
meeting on
it.
the 9th before you guys are ready to.
Depends on how the agenda looks.
And look at
Okay.
the amount of documentation. Fire department policies and procedures, I think those need to be in here, so we pushed
I
them.
hope they are.
I'm gonna put the access to the town council policy back on with any
Yep.
edits I get.
Yeah.
And for the new booklet that we're doing, I have drafted the governance and organizational goals section, but I really think that you
Oh, I
guys
got
need
that,
to
yeah.
do that section. So I'll send that out for you to make edits on as well. We need to get that
Oh,
in
as the
place.
select
Okay,
board.
yeah.
Okay, I
Right.
got it.
I have
after.
I have two more that I had said I had three.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The second one is I had a resident contact me about the possibility of a bus route to Greenfield. I understand that's already been talked about and in motion. I would like to put that on the agenda. It doesn't have to be on a new agenda, a close agenda. It can be a little bit down the road. And then I had a meeting with the police chief about speed enforcement, and I'd like to discuss adding an item to the warrant for the townspeople to vote on, and so I'd like to add that to the agenda.
Do you have the draft of what you want to do so that the select board can review that?
I'll
before?
send it.
Yeah, so we like to give, so you have something in front of
Yeah,
you when
yeah,
you
yeah.
talk.
He's going to have to do an update with.
Right, so we could discuss
yeah,
then.
Yep.
Just as
Yeah.
long as we have
Yep.
it, that we can discuss that, because it's specifically
Yep.
about a warrant
Yep.
item.
Okay.
I'm with you.
And also, you're going to see the special town meeting warrant again, because if you're going to do it in January, and
We're
the
gonna
next
have
time
to
you
do
meet is the 9th, and there are issues, including something that's come from the sewer, some things that might drop off, some things, but
Okay.
we do need to look at that, because you guys do have to decide
Okay.
at some point.
One other thing, should we put just a quote, not final, but final review on ARPA on the 19th, just because we're coming to
I
the
think
end
we
of the
can
year?
wait on that, but we don't actually have to have everything allocated by the 31st anymore, so.
Oh, we don't?
I think we're good.
Oh, okay.
And we may get some money back from fire.
Right, okay,
So,
so that's
I
why
think
I
we're
just
good.
wanted to make sure we're okay with
That agenda's
the.
already gonna be
Okay,
packed, so
all right,
I think we
all right.
can push that
You're
off.
on it. I withdraw it. We'll come
right.
later.
We'll put it
Okay.
in.
I'm good.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
you.
Okay,